Call the meeting to order. We stand for Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Get your moment of silence too.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States. And to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everyone. Mr. Secretary, may we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Bohr, Commissioner Lawson, Commissioner Cott, Commissioner Cayley, Commissioner Hosey, Commissioner Glick is walking in right this minute. He's here. Commissioner Anselmi Dalton.
Here.
Commissioner Pence is here. That's me. Commissioner Choma, Vice Chairman.
Present.
Chairman Craig.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Select Water, would you like to call roll?
Senator Crum,
Present.
Senator Driscoll,
Excused.
Senator Guru,
Here.
Senator Jones. Here. Senator Larson,
Here.
Representative Banks,
Here.
Representative Chestick,
Here.
Representative Larson,
Yes.
Representative Lawley,
Here.
Representative Strzok,
Here.
Vice Chairman Boner, Chairman Eklund. Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you. I became aware yesterday evening that former state senator, U.S. Senator and Vice President Dick Cheney passed away on Monday. I'd like to take a moment of silence, please, for Mr. Cheney and his family. Thank you, everyone. Welcome today. Director Mead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we're going to pick up where we left off yesterday. So we're now into account 2 recommendations. Just for Select Water Committee members that weren't here, this is an opportunity. We have all the sponsors either here in person or online to ask questions of. And the next time you'll be seeing these projects that get recommended today by the commission will be at the January meeting or December. We're still trying to decide when that meeting is going to occur, in the draft omnibus construction bill and the draft omnibus planning bill. So take this opportunity to ask those questions so everything's clear in your minds. And then I would address the sponsors real quick that are in the crowd. You should all have an agenda. If you don't, they're by the front door. And as you see your agenda item or your project coming up, just come on up. Don't wait for us to call you. We'll keep things moving. So appreciate it.
Okay, girl.
So the first project is the Bighorn Canal, page 160 of the recommendations notebook. I'll give everybody just a second to get caught up on that.
Good morning.
So this project is for the Bighorn Canal Irrigation District. They would like to replace their 5-mile pipeline and 5-mile wasteway. The pipeline allows their ditch to cross 5 Mile Creek. It's getting old, corroded, and reaching the end of its life. They're actually going to turn that into a siphon below the creek and then relocate the wasteway. They've got a couple wasteways and they're going to combine them into one, which would reduce their operation and maintenance. And this particular project, if it were to fail, would jeopardize about 75% of their acres, or about 18,000 acres. The recommendation is to fund this at a 50% grant, 50% loan for a total of $4,544,600. They are looking to get some federal funding, most likely NRCS EQIP. That is a reimbursement program. So what we've been seeing over the last several years is the sponsor will ask for a carrier loan to have the funding available to pay for the project. And then as they get reimbursed from the NRCS, they pay off their loan. So it's a fairly short-term loan. It works out well for our sponsors. The only other thing I'd mention before I hand it over to the sponsors is that if you recall yesterday, we had to approve a transfer from account 1 to account 2 to cover the recommendations we're making in account 2 to the tune of $16 million. So some of these projects that we're going to be talking about today are going to be contingent upon the approval of that transfer before they can be funded. So this particular project and really most of the projects, besides a couple of our priority 1 projects, are going to be contingent. So this is one of the ones that are contingent upon that transfer. And with that, I'd hand it over for the sponsor to introduce themselves and say whatever you'd like.
Yeah, sure. Richard Russell, Bighorn Canal Irrigation District President. We've got 23,000 acres, irrigated acres in the Bighorn Basin, spans Washakie and Bighorn County. We raise sugar beets, malt, barley, alfalfa hay, cattle. It's a major contributor to the economic agricultural engine in the Bighorn Basin. A lot of our structures were put in place, and we've done a lot of work in the past with cooperation with you guys, and we appreciate that. But a lot of our structures were put in place, and they're reaching end of life, and this would just be hugely detrimental to our ability to transmit water. And I know in this exact project where we're talking about, we did have some failure in it this spring. We had to go in and patch some holes in it. We looked at it. It's this 5-mile project that it was in our last study that we looked at, and we kind of tried to take a look at it and rehab some of it. Didn't get to it is because there were some other higher priority projects that we got to. It came back up in our new level 1 study is something that we needed to do, and it's just something that we want to continue to help improve our infrastructure and ensure that we're viable for the next 100 years.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for the sponsor or the director? Hearing none, can we have a motion to accept the director's recommendation? I have a motion. Commissioner Anselmo Dolan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would move approval of the requested funding for the Bighorn Canal 5-mile pipeline 2026 at a 50% grant and 50% loan contingent on the transfer from account 1 to account 2.
Have a second?
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Anselmo Dolan, second by Commissioner Pence. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you guys for taking the time to listen to us today.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, the next project is on page 168. This is the Byron Water Supply, Raw Water Supply 2026 for the town of Byron. So the Byron lateral is operated by the Sidon Irrigation District, who's actually planning to pipe that lateral. And the town of Byron is originally asked for funding to pipe not only the transmission line associated with their raw water lines. And when I say raw water, this is irrigation for parks and lawns. It's not drinking water. Asked for the pump station, the transmission, as well as all the distribution lines that they have associated with the raw water system. When we talked to them about, well, really the pump station and the transmission would be eligible, but not distribution, they revised their request. However, they've looked at this in the past, and in the early 2000s, they were actually funded by Water Development to complete this project, and they did not move forward. And at this time, I don't think there's a clear funding path for them on the matching side of this either. So we're suggesting, since we had a level 2 study, I believe it was in the early 2000s, to look at this. They didn't move forward. Things have changed or potentially going to change with the Sidon Irrigation District putting some ditch in a pipe, which would allow them to pressurize and close some of their system, because I think they believe it's a safety hazard within town and potentially a flooding hazard. But we feel like if they need to upgrade their study, that they should do that on their own with a home brew, because we've already paid for it once 20 plus years ago. We're going to fund it then when we could afford it. But the other caveat is that raw water is a priority 9 in our program. And again, the conversations we've had yesterday And before, with aging infrastructure and all that, we just don't feel like it's a high enough priority that we can fund it. So even if they came back with an updated study, our recommendation most likely would be do not fund. So it is a do not fund. And with that, I'm not sure if we have anybody from the sponsor online. Let me look here. Kristen Sanders, potentially?
Yes, I'm
You
here.
do. Okay. Kristen, if you want to introduce yourself, or maybe I just
Yeah.
did, but
Yeah, my name is Kristen Sanders. I'm the fairly new clerk treasurer for the town of Byron. And as was explained, this was a project that's ongoing. I don't know if you can see in your packet in the last page, just the open water has been an issue for safe routes to school. I don't know if you can see this. So
yeah, she's referring to the map.
the town has come a long way, and it's kind of a ship that's turning around this year. We've made a lot of progress with some grants and some challenges they've had financially. And as was explained, we're hoping to get grants going again. I know this is not one that's being recommended right now, but we would really like future prospects, and just appreciate your consideration of all for the residents of this small town.
Thank you. Director Mead, any further comments?
Mr. Chairman, the only thing I would say is they did request pre-construction funding, not actual construction funding. I failed to say that when I introduced the project, but again, the recommendation would still be do not fund, at least from our office.
Are there any questions for the director or the sponsor? Commissioner Anselmi Dalton?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Director Mead. So, I mean, I do feel bad for the town. It's always hard to come into a ship, as a brand new person. So thank you very much for taking the time, Ms. Sanders. But is there some other way they can get some funding for this? I know it's a level 9 priority, which is, I think, the bottom of the list, correct?
It's pretty close to the bottom anyway. Yeah. Other funding sources. I think we had, I don't know if any SRF funding or SLIB funding through state lands would be available for this type of project through clean water or some other program. I'm not aware of that. I don't know if that was looked at. So actually, I'm thinking of a different project. So I'm not aware of any, but there are potentially some out there, and I'm sure the sponsor is probably looking into that.
Any other questions? Any other comments? We have a motion to accept the director's recommendation to do not fund. Commissioner Hosey.
I would like to move that we accept the director's recommendation of do not fund for the Byron Raw Water Supply 2026.
You have a second? Second. Motion by Commissioner Hosey, second by Commissioner Choma. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next project is on page 176. This is the Cody Canal Irrigation District Lead Diversion Rehab. The intent of this project is to remove and replace the lead diversion on the Cody Canal. That would improve the efficiency, reduce spills, and then significantly reduce sediment entering the Cody Canal. This is an area that really has a lot of problems with sediment. As they went through their rehabilitation level 2 study, this structure was considered an integral component and was a very high priority for replacement. They've applied for a multitude of different funding sources. So far, they've got $119,000, but they're looking for Trout Unlimited and NRT, Wildlife Natural Resource Trust funds, and other funding sources to help with this. So the current recommendation is a grant of 50% in the amount of $2,221,000 and a loan of 47.3%. That kind of makes up for the difference in the other funding that they've got contributed from outside entities. So that loan would be in the amount of $2,102,000. And with that, I think I'd hand it over to the sponsor.
Thank you for your consideration. Yes, Gary Bales. Like was just stated, with this earlier study, it led us down the path to try to start with one point and lead diversion of our main source diverting out of the South Fork. We do probably have a lot of sediment in our system.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll start over. Jerry Bales, Cody Canal Irrigation District. Earlier studies indicated that our lead diversion, if it was upgraded in many ways, we could clean up a lot of the sediment that is diverted into our system, which the studies indicate a majority of it or a lot of it end up back into the Shoshone River downstream of Buffalo Bill Dam, which they're attributing a lot of that to some of the Willwood silt problems that happened a few years ago when they had the big release. And so this is our effort to work alongside of that to help clean up that potential situation. In this project, we would, number one, try to get the silt out of the system from taking it in, leave it in the river, go on down to the reservoir. And the Game and Fish have done earlier studies on us to show how many fish that we've entrapped in the canal system over the years. And they would like to incorporate a trout or fish screen at the head end of this also to try to save more fish in that respect. So that is another component of this whole structure. It'll make the efficiency of the canal system better with automation at the front end, and try to just clean everything up. And, hopefully we can make big progress. Take any questions if there's any.
Anyone have any questions for the sponsor or director? Director Mead?
Mr. Chairman, one thing I would like to add is the original recommendation in your notebooks did not have this project as contingent upon that transfer from account 1 to account 2. But when we went back and looked at some of our priorities, that would be something we would need to add to this recommendation as it's contingent upon that transfer.
Do we need to be incorporating that contingent upon transfer in our motions?
Probably wouldn't hurt. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Any other comments? Commissioner Sommerdahl.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, thank you. But then we get down to number 14. I know this is not on this project, but then it says it's not contingent. Is that now contingent? I'm just trying to make sure when we go through our motions. That one's the Powder River one. It says it's not contingent. And how do we decide between which ones aren't contingent on the transfer?
Yeah, so really we're just looking at the priorities of the projects and working down through them monetarily, dollar wise, to figure out, okay, at what point can we fund them with what's available in account 2 currently. So it really ends up being all the priority 3s, all the priority 2s, and I believe maybe one of the priority 1s ended up needing to be contingent to be covered with that transfer of funds. Did that answer all your questions? Okay.
So will you keep us on
Yes,
track on that?
I'll keep you on track because there are a few that need to be changed.
All right, thank
Yep.
you. Okay, now any other questions for Jerry or the director? Commissioner Click.
Is it Jerry, right?
Yes.
Okay. I helped you out a long time ago, remember that?
Yes, I do.
Is this on the upper part or is this that one that goes through town?
This is on the main diversion right out of the river. So it's right
Is
at
that
the head end of our
way up
system.
there?
Yeah, way up South Fork, and it's about 3 miles above the Buffalo Bill
Yeah.
Reservoir. is
Okay,
where we
yeah, that
pull
one was
out.
fixed. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question, Jerry. I'm somewhat familiar with that. A lot of trash in that river and high water and the fish screen. I'm intrigued. What is a little bit aside, basically nothing to do with the project other than the design of a fish screen that can keep that trash and still be functional, can handle that trash and be functional. What's that look like?
What we're proposing on this is we actually draw directly out of the river upstream of this, where this structure will be about a 1/4 mile. We come down a short section of canal, then we currently spill back into the river what we don't need, and we take the rest on down the canal system. Currently, we have an old power pole for a log diverter, which kind of carries some of the trash over to the side that we flush out. With this new one, they are incorporating upgraded buoys to do some of the large trash diversion back to the riverside that will spill back in. Along with that, we're going to actually be stilling the water a little more than we have in the current diversion setup, which will hopefully not draw the volume of water right to us. And by doing that, I guess the way we're doing that is the new gates will be configured to pull off the top of the system and not the bottom. And the bottom we can flush back into the river is the new concept. Back in when they did the original one, we had radial gates which drove off the bottom, which took all the sediment down our system. We flushed the clean water back into the river. So we're flip-flopping that. Now, as far as the fish screens and the trash, the screens we're looking at are called cone screens. There will be 6 of them in order to carry the capacity of water that we need. And they will have a rotating brush on the top of them that can flush the debris off of them. And then when we're returning the water back to the river, we're hoping to float that stuff back into the river where it came from. That's the theory.
So somewhat of a self-cleaning type of a.
Yes, the rotating screens on them kind of help to, is what I understand, to do that. And I mean, I think you can do different orifices or different sizes of screenings to hopefully find that perfect mesh, but no matter what it is, there's something, no matter how big the screen is, something will plug it. You know, there's always that perfect stick or whatever it is. So that is part of the concern of me personally, is to make sure that that is a good functioning system without high maintenance increase.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Commissioner Pence.
I've got a question for you. After the screen and the outfit takes the debris away and it goes back to the river, does that water go into the lake, or is there somebody else downriver that's going to have to take care of that stuff when it gets to them?
We are 2 miles above the reservoir. We are the last diversion
Okay.
out of the South Fork,
Thank you.
but they already let it come down to me.
Commissioner Glick.
I got one more comment. You know, within one of our districts, we tried that fish rack, fish screen, whatever they call it. And it worked for a little while and they had to take it out. So now we got a $200,000 piece of nothing sitting there, and it's holding our water back. It's restricting our water. So I would be cautious about that.
Thank you.
The other downside I see to that fish screen is the kids won't get to fish in those holes that are left when they turn the water out of the canal.
Yeah, well, every year Trout Unlimited comes through our canal and recovers a lot of fish. And there was 1 mile section this fall that they recovered about 600 fish in less than a mile of canal. And they deem that necessary or enough to justify the amount of that funding that they're potentially putting into the system.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? We have a motion to accept the director's recommendation. Commissioner Glick.
I'd like to make the motion to approve the director's recommendation, the office's recommendation for the Cody Canal the diversion rehabilitation 2026 project.
With the contingent.
Oh yeah, with the contingency of the transfer of funds. Thank you.
We have a second.
Second. Should be.
Motion made by Commissioner Glick, second by Commissioner Pence. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next project is on page 183. This is the Cody Raw Water Pump Station Rehab. Cody is requesting the upgrade and rehab of 2 pump stations that operate the city's raw water irrigation system. So when they did their master plan back in 2021, there were 2 volumes for that master plan, the second being the raw water portion of their town. And this was one of the number 1 priority of that volume 2 raw water system master plan. But again, and they've also offered to fully fund the design of the upgrade. But again, similar to Byron, our office doesn't feel like we have the funding available considering all the infrastructure problems we have to fund a priority 9 project, because that would be to the tune of over $1 million at a 50% grant. So we do have a do not fund. Trying to see if we have any sponsor online. Philip Bowman, I believe, might be online. If you have any questions.
We'll be joining now.
Well, while they're working on that, maybe if you have any questions for us, we'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions for Director or for Bill?
I got a question
Commissioner Glick?
on this, this is Cody Raw Water, right?
That's correct.
Okay. If it's not high on the priority list and it's not this is a do not fund. Do these ever come back around later on?
Mr. Chairman, if they reapply, I think we'll have to consider it that given year and what other projects we have for that year. And I don't know that they would be given preference just because they weren't funded one year.
Yeah, I was just wondering if it could come back around if there's more.
Yeah,
funding
I mean,
later.
they're welcome to come back and ask, maybe we'll have a big infusion of funds where we can fund things further down the line. Just kind of a year to year kind of analysis we'll have to complete.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Were we able to get the sponsor on?
He's online now, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, welcome. Do you have any introduce yourself, please?
Good morning. I'm Philip Bowman, the Director for the City of Cody.
Would you have anything you'd like to add?
I believe Director Mead summarized everything very well. We are, as he indicated, in the design process for this project. So we do have funding in our city budget and specifically our water enterprise fund to complete the design. And specific to one of the questions, if the timing permits, we would like to come back next year with a second or future application to seek funding and see if funding is available next year after that design is complete. But some of our design also includes analysis to upgrade those pumps and add capacity. So that may be a component as we complete our design that could possibly change some of our rankings. So we are moving forward, but we'll likely plan to come back if timing and construction of the project permit.
Okay, thank you. Anyone have any questions? I have a motion to accept the director's recommendation. Commissioner Glick?
I move that we accept the directors and officers' recommendation for a do not fund on the Cody Raw Water Pump Station Rehabilitation Project.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Glick, second by Commissioner Choma. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Director, would you give me a bag of candy, please? I'm gonna do like motivational speakers and start throwing out candy bars to people that make motions. Speed this up a little bit.
All right, our next project is on page 190. This is a Cali transmission pipeline replacement. So Cali has a groundwater well for its water source and then a transmission line that runs about 7 miles to a chlorination building and then runs into town to the distribution system. And that pipeline, portions of it are fiberglass reinforced plastic pipe. It's meeting end of life and having quite a few leaks and just repairs over time. So the town is asking for 50% funding for that entire project. It's roughly 21,700 linear feet. The office is recommending, because they are, I think, looking for matching funds through the state revolving fund, as well as need some easements for the alignment. So we're suggesting that we just fund pre-construction. 50% of that grant would be 182,000, and then when they meet the pre-construction requirements, come back with the 50% design and plus all the easements and everything in place and the funding in place, then we would recommend the additional grant, and that would be to the tune of $2.221 million. So pre-construction only at this time, and this funding would be contingent upon the transfer of funds from account 1 to account 2, which is already in the recommendation. With that, I'd hand it over to the sponsor for their introduction.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, thank you for your time. I'm Joel Peterson, Mayor of the town of Cali. I have a member of the engineering firm that represents us, as well as Mr. Banks, who is our town manager. We appreciate that. If there are any questions, we would love to answer them.
Is there any questions for the sponsor or the director? No questions?
Mr. Chairman.
You have a question? You want the candy?
Yeah.
No.
Mr. Chairman,
You have a question?
I motion.
Motion?
Mr. Do you have a question? No.
He wants the candy too.
See?
Is there a question? Senator
There,
Larson?
yeah, I got it on finally. Yeah, have, the Shoshone municipal pipeline is kind of close, but not really. But have you thought about going that direction ever? Why not?
The reason why not is because we have a better water supply, and we have been working on it for what, since 1978. Our system has been functioning, and our water tests are best.
Are there any other questions? Now I'll call for a motion.
I have a motion. Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Anselmi Dalton.
Mr. Chair, I would approve the director's and commission's recommendation of a 50% grant pre-construction due to the need for easements, contingent on the transfer from account 1 to account 2 for the Cali transmission pipeline replacement.
Motion by Commissioner Anselmi Dalton, second by Commissioner Hosey. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, the next project is on page 198. This is the Elk Water Users Irrigation District Roan Wash Spill. This structure's in poor condition. And when they did their Elk Canal Master Plan, it was considered very high priority to replace. Improving that or replacing that structure would make the system much more efficient. The other thing is this structure is on the Elk Level Canal. And if we remember from yesterday when we had our project closeout from Lonnie Olson, if this structure went down, it would not only affect the elk water users and their 3,000 to 4,000 acres, but also the Level Irrigation District and their 11,000 acres. So it's an important structure. We are recommending funding. They are looking for an NRCS equip funding for this. So again, that's reimbursement. So they're looking for that carrier loan too. So it would be a grant loan, total of $641,000. I would say that the elk water users were the primary applicant and resolution on this project. They do have a support letter from the Level Irrigation District, but considering there's going to be a loan, and I believe they have an agreement between them that the elk water users pay 3/8 or would pay on this particular structure since it operates for both 3/8 of any costs, and the level irrigation district would be, I'm sorry, 3/11 and 8/11 for level. So we will probably ask that they are co-applicants and would both be on any kind of loan documents and things through our office, and the agreement through our office. So we'll work that out in the background between now and probably January or, yeah. So with that, I'd ask the sponsor to introduce themselves. And
thank you, Mr. Chairman, commissioners. Appreciate, my contact in the state engineer's office said you like comments that are brief. So I promise you're going to like my comments. As was mentioned, this structure is, who knows the age of it? It could be 100 years old, but it's spalling and it's beginning to fail. The concrete at the bottom in places is almost gone. And so to get by, they put long lengths of board to be able to get something to keep it in place, but it's not sustainable. And so we're coming requesting assistance to rebuild that. But I also want to thank you. We've only been a district for less than 2 years. I want to thank you for funding the level 1 study that was done by JUB engineers. It's comprehensive. It's very useful. It gives us some direction. It's something that we couldn't have done on our own and something we wouldn't have done when we were an association. So I want to thank you for that. It gives us some guidance and some guidelines going forward. And this was listed as a high priority. There were some other priorities, some of which we've already taken care of on our own. But I would entertain any questions if there are any.
Thank you. For the record, Fred, would you state your name, please?
I'm sorry, did I not?
Not that I heard, but I
Well-
don't hear
well,
very good either, so.
You know me, Lee. My name is Fred Hopkin, and I'm with the Elk User Irrigations District.
Thank you. Any questions for Fred or for the director or Bill?
Got a question.
Commissioner Pence?
This is obviously an aging infrastructure how does it fall under the critical aging infrastructure platform? I mean, is there any monies there that could take care of this?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Pence, it does. And what we've been trying to do as we run through these projects and get applications this year, because we have that critical aging study now and the Rehabilitation Priority Index, RPI, you might remember that acronym and how we came up with that. So we did have the construction department go through and try to put numbers of those ones that weren't in that original CAII, Critical Aging Irrigation Infrastructure Study. We have somewhere in my pile of stuff here, I have where we ranked all those out. I believe this was a very high priority for not only the district, but I believe it was in the top 5%. I'll be able to find that in a minute. But in regards to your question, is there any funding available? So we don't have any special funding for the critical aging irrigation infrastructure. We just know that it's a high priority for replacement because it could have major impacts if it were to fail. So we are trying to keep that in mind as we move forward with projects in this year and in future years to help us prioritize which ones should be funded and which ones shouldn't. But there's no special funding available at this time besides just the funding that we have within the program.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Hearing none, can we have a motion? Chairman. Commissioner Rossi?
I would like to move that we accept the Elk Water Users Irrigation District Level 3 project for the 641,000, which is half grant and half loan.
We have a second? Motion made by Commissioner Hosey, second by Commissioner Anselmo.
Chairman, can I amend or add to, I also want to add that contingent upon the level district joining the application.
Is that acceptable, Commissioner Anselmo?
And I have a question. Would this be two board resolutions or a board resolution? Yeah, I'm trying to think how to structure this. A resolution from each board or, okay.
Yep.
Okay. And yes, I've spoken to their secretary. I think that will be forthcoming.
So, Mr. Chairman, as we move forward and when we put it into the omnibus construction bill, the sponsor would show up as both the users as well as the level irrigation district. We put both of them on there once we get that resolution.
So is the motion sufficient?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And Mr. Chairman, I did find my sheet of the RPI scores, and this particular project falls within the top 5% of critical structures within the entire state. And if you recall, we looked at 10,000 plus structures, so that's within the top 500 structures within the state. All right, the next project is on page 205. This is the Glen Rock transmission pipeline for the town of Glen Rock. Again, they have groundwater as a source of supply, and then roughly a 8-mile transmission pipeline that's ductile iron pipe. It's roughly 45 years old and was basically pointed out as needing replacement in a prior master plan that they did. The request is for the entire amount, which would be, again, roughly 41,000 feet. What we are suggesting or recommending is pre-construction only, as easements will be required to complete the project. And we've also talked to the town about just that length of pipe, and we'll most likely, when we get around to construction, need to phase that into 2 or 3 different phases to be able to make that affordable for the program. And then during the design, what we're going to request, I think, of the engineer that does the design work is to do some potholing and determine if there's any parts of the line that might be more crucial or more critical to replace first, and help us in that phasing kind of into the future. So what we're looking at right now is a recommendation of a grant, 50% grant for pre-construction in the amount of $467,000. And that would be contingent upon the transfer from account 1 to account 2, which is already in the original recommendation. With that, I'd hand it over to the sponsor.
Thank you, Director Mead and the board. I'm the mayor of the town of Glen Rock. I'm Bruce Rommel. This is my public works director, John Funk, and our representative from CEPI, Ray Catalier, and we'd be happy to answer any questions for you.
Are there any questions for the sponsor, the director? Hearing none, can we have a motion to accept the director's recommendation? Commissioner Glick?
I make a motion that we accept the office and the director's recommendation of funding for 467,000 for the 50% grant for the, let's see, Glen Rock transmission pipeline. Oh yeah, and the loan, the 50% loan in 460 right here. They're both the same. 467,000. Thanks.
Mr. Chairman, just to be clear, there is no loan on this project, just a 50% grant.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks. Thank you, Mr.
We have a motion, we have a second. Commissioner Sommerville.
Mr. Chairman, it is contingent upon the transfer but that was already in the recommendation, so we don't need to make any special motion for that. Yeah.
Motion made by Commissioner Glick, second by Commissioner Anselmi Dalton. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, the next project is on page 213. This is the Goshen Irrigation District 3.6 East Springer Pipeline Project for the Goshen Irrigation District. And what they're requesting is a materials only funding to replace this portion of pipeline, improve the water delivery efficiency, reduce conveyance losses, et cetera. It'd replace about little under 2,400 feet of open ditch with pipeline, and then another section that's actually pipeline already but needs to be replaced. As you recall, the materials only is where, again, we would provide funding for materials. In this case, it's a grant of not to exceed $106,100. And then the sponsor would be responsible for the engineering, labor, equipment, et cetera. These worked out pretty well in the past, especially with districts that have a crew that, they're busy during the summer running irrigation water in the winter time. In order to keep that crew on, and the longevity of that crew, putting them to work on some of these projects works out well, both for our office and saving some funds, as well as the district and maintaining their employees. So the only other thing I would add is that, again, this project is contingent upon the transfer, which is already in the original recommendation. With that, I'd hand it over to the sponsor.
Good morning. I am Tyson Gladson. I'm the foreman for Goshen Irrigation District. I've been there for 12 years now, and 4 of those years I've been the foreman. I would like to thank you, Mr. Chairman, for Wyoming Water Development for all the past years of funding that we have received. And Madam Chair, I'd also like to thank Select Water for that also. And this project, as Jason touched on that, this project's definitely in our scope of work. We have a great crew, and we can complete this in one off season for sure. And we've always completed these projects in one off season, and it's definitely in our best interest to secure funding for these projects to continue upgrading our infrastructure. With that, I'd like to leave that up for any questions.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions? Commissioner Glick?
Is this one tied to the next pipeline? Are they tied together or no?
Mr. Chairman, they're not tied together, but I would say if you guys want to handle them in a block, that might be appropriate because it is the same sponsor, just a different lateral.
Okay. Can we
That
handle
seems appropriate.
block?
Do you want to discuss the 29.4 pipeline?
Sure. That's, Mr. Chairman, that's on page 220. As you mentioned, it's the 29.4 pipeline, very similar, looking for a materials only grant to improve that system. It's approximately a mile long. Again, here we're recommending 177,500 for the materials. And again, it's contingent, which is already in the recommendation. The only other thing I'd say here, when you heard Bill talk yesterday about how we go through projects, and typically we don't do more than one project per sponsor, but in this case, they're fairly small dollar amount projects. So we figured that was appropriate to fund both these projects for this sponsor. So if you have any questions on the 29.4 lateral, I'm sure he'd be, and if you have anything to add, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to also add that this will be the third and final phase of 29.4 pipeline. 10 years ago, we did the first phase. 2 years ago, we did the second phase, and this will be the third and final phase, and it would clear up a big problem of a pipeline for us.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Rossi?
Would you have the same expectation that you'd be able to get it done in this off season?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Other questions? We have a motion.
Chairman, I'd like to
Commissioner
make a
Glick?
motion that we accept the directors and officers recommendation on the GID 3.6 East Springer pipeline and the GID 29.4 pipeline projects for the grants in the one, what is it, 283,600? Is that what it is for the total?
Mr. Chairman, I have not done the math on that.
Yes.
I think it is.
Okay.
Your math is correct.
All right. Thanks.
We have a motion. We have a second.
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 Motion by Commissioner Glick, second by Commissioner Hosey. Any discussion? The only, I would make a comment is I think these are great projects where the sponsor can do the physical work and it's materials only, saves quite a bit of money for the program for other projects as well. And if you have a crew on hand and the equipment to do the work, my hat's off to you. Thank you for doing that. Commissioner.
Mr. Chair, I think you said grant versus materials only project, so I didn't know if we needed to make sure it's not a grant, right? It's just materials only.
Materials only, yes. Okay, we have a motion. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, the next project is on page 227. This is the Grable Tank and Phase 1 pipeline. George talked about this in the project closeout memo yesterday. These folks have their, again, groundwater as their supply source, and then a 17-mile transmission line. This is the asbestos cement pipeline, gravity fed. The original request, and again, that's 50 years old plus. So the original request was to replace both the east tank, storage tank, and roughly 30,000 feet of that pipeline, the most problematic portion of it. However, we know that there's going to need to be some easements on the pipeline portion. So what we're suggesting is pre-construction for the storage tank and the pipeline design, but just then to fund construction of the storage tank itself and hold off and have them come back once their design's 50% complete and they've got their easements in place for that portion of pipeline. So the recommendation is for a grant of $1,582,000. This project would be contingent on the transfer of funds from account 1 to account 2, which is already in the recommendation. And then again, most likely they'll be back in the next couple of years for the construction funding on that portion of pipeline they requested, and then probably several more phases of pipeline replacement to get that complete 17 miles replaced. So with that, I'd hand it over to the representative for the sponsors.
Thank you, Director and Chairman. I'm Tad Rosenlund. I'm with Dow. This is Dayton Olsacker, also with Dow. We're helping the town with this. The mayor of the town, as well as the administrator, was going to call in. I don't know if they've been able to do that. I think the project's been explained pretty well, so I won't get into detail, but open for any questions. One thing I would like to note is we are slated for 50% funding from SRF with 67% principal forgiveness on this. So this 50% funding from water development is very important to keep that. Thank you.
Any questions for the sponsor? Do we
Mr.
have
Chairman?
someone online?
Yes, sir. We have Senator Guru with a question online.
Mr. Chairman?
Is there someone is online, you say?
Senator Guru.
Oh, Senator Guru. You have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick question. We talked about it was talked about yesterday about using a new line for the pipe that is more in line with the road versus the where the current asbestos pipe is. And my question is that are all the easements in place? Are there easements in place for where the current pipeline? And just talk a little bit about the differences between the two. I mean, or is there not enough room to put in the new pipe and not have to do the whole thing at once? I guess would be my question.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I believe the alignment we're considering mostly is following the existing alignment and trying to use the existing easements that the existing pipeline is in. So that'll be our first approach. If we do need to go alongside the highway, we'll consider that as well. And we have had some initial discussions with YDOT, and we would need to get additional easements along the highway if we went that route. So we wouldn't be able to go in YDOT right away, is what I'm saying.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Did we get someone online?
Other than that, I don't think so.
Okay. We have a motion to accept the recommendation.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Rosie.
I would like to move that we accept the office's recommendation on the Grable Tank and Phase 1 pipeline for 2026.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hosey, second by Commissioner Choma. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the next project's on page 238. This is the Grable Valley Irrigation District Upper Sunshine Outlet Works. So some of you might have been involved in the consultant selection, but there was a level 2 study done and determined, so the Upper Sunshine Reservoir was constructed back in the 1930s. And the outlet works are aging. Obviously, the intake structure no longer functions as originally intended. When they did the level 2 study, they had a lot of difficulty in actually understanding what the outlet works pipe condition was, just because of water clarity and darkness and the ability to get in there and investigate that. So what the district is asking for is just to replace the intake structure on the upper end of that outlet works. We already know that the valve at the lower end is going to need to be replaced, but they'll need to drain the reservoir to replace the intake. And when they do that, then they can get a better idea of what the outlet works pipe is, make plans on does it need to be replaced or not. And then that'll better inform that. And then future phase probably would replace that pipe if needed, and possibly that valve at the other end of the downstream end of that. So what we are proposing is a 50% grant and a 50% loan. Total amount would be $2,623,200. This is contingent upon the transfer from account 1 to account 2. That's already in the recommendation. With that, I'd hand it over to the sponsor.
Hi, I'm Melissa Lenhart, the Grable Valley Manager. I think Jason kind of summed it all up unless you have any questions.
Mr. Chairman, I would add again, getting back to the critical nature of this project, when it was scored out, this is going to be in the top 1% of the most critical structures in the state, considering it's a reservoir and the acres that it serves with its water. So that would be in the top 100 projects for criticality.
Thank you, Director. Are there any questions? Commissioner Todd?
Chairman, I have a question for you. Just explain what our priority 6 is. What is that category of priority 6? Is this maybe I'm unknown?
So priority 6 in our account 2 program priorities is just the rehabilitation of existing reservoirs.
Thank you.
Yep.
Other questions? I have a question, Commissioner, first of the sponsor. I know this came up at the last meeting and there was some concern about the cost. I have no concern about the cost because I'm fairly familiar with this area, the reservoirs, how they're tied together, Upper and Lower Sunshine. But I'd like to, for clarification, maybe peace of mind for a couple of commissioners. How many acres are downstream of Upper and Lower Sunshine Reservoir that are served by that storage?
64,000 acre feet. It goes from above Matizzi to all the way before Basin and Grable. And so it has Burlington, Otto, and Emblem in there.
So about 64,000 acres irrigated. This project is integral. This reservoir is integral to that whole system.
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I have a motion. Commissioner Glick?
Chairman, I'd like to make the motion that we accept the directors and officers' recommendation for the Grable Valley ID Upper Sunshine in the Wyoming Water Development Grant, 50%, 1.3 or $1,311,600, and then also a Wyoming Water Development loan in the same amount of $1,311,600. And let's see. Also, I'd like to add that the 50% loan is at 4% interest in a term of 40 years. Thank you.
We have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Glick, second by Commissioner Pence. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, the next project is on page 245. This is the Newcastle Transmission Pipeline. I'm going to have Bill present this one.
Welcome, Bill.
Okay, Chairman, Commission, Bill Brewer, Deputy Director of Construction. This project is the Newcastle Transmission Pipeline Project. It's for the city of Newcastle. City of Newcastle's #2 tank was built in 1981. And there's been repeated water quality issues downstream of this new tank or this older tank. When this tank was put in, it was put in with a style that was very typical at the time of a single pipeline that goes up to the tank. And then that same pipeline is what drains the water out of the tank. During the summers with high flow, that tends to work well. In the winter, when you're getting very low flows, generally the water kind of starts pushing up the hill towards the tank, never quite makes it to the tank, flows back into town. So that water in the tank just kind of sits there. And eventually things start to grow in that water, which is not good. So basically, the main request is to move this over to a more modern design, which is a single pipeline that goes to the tank, forces the water into the tank, and then a separate line that drains the tank to ensure that water in the tank is moving and doesn't just sit there for months on end. There's some modifications to the tank that will be required to change from a single outlet to 2 outlets. There's a control station that was built to control 1 pipeline. It's also in a horrible location, so it has some physical problems with where it's located that I understand that it occasionally floods in that area where it's sitting. So the new structure is required to operate 2 different pipelines, plus it would be relocated into a better location. Another problem to go along with this, because they didn't have enough problems, is that the original line was put in an old landfill. So part of the project will be to put the new pipelines off to the side and out of that old landfill area. So sponsors here that can probably fill in some more details.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Greg Stumpf, the Public Works Supervisor for the City of Newcastle. To reiterate what Mr. Brewer said, yes, this project is necessary. It was built in 1981. The common inlet outlet has caused multiple total coliform positive samples, especially in summertime when the tank heats up. There's about 230 gallons a minute going into the tank and about 200 gallons a minute going out of the tank. So we never really get a good exchange with a common inlet outlet. So we want to separate the common inlet outlet to increase to improve the water quality. The second problem is the water main buried in waste, which we discovered during a nature and extent study during our landfill 1 remediation project plan that we're starting this next summer. This creates significant health risk, especially if we have to dig up the main, do any repairs to it in the future. We do have plans to relocate this line to a new site where it's off-site from the landfill, about 150 feet away from the landfill. And the Divide Avenue control station, it's had numerous problems, especially with flooding. They built it right in the middle of the natural drainage. We've done everything we can to try and divert it. 3 years ago, we ended up having to lift it because it had settled so bad it broke the main. With that, I'll introduce Beth Blackwell, our grant loan specialist. She can talk about the finances.
Chairman, members of the committee, the city is being very proactive and I applaud them. They came to you, they had a study done. They're now following that study and doing what's recommended to them. They're coming to you and asking for grant funding. However, they're also taking out a loan, which required them to raise their rates. So they've got skin in the game. In addition to this project, they have many other projects going on, some of which they're funding themselves. They are also taking out grant funds, which again returns to raising rates to their customers. So the city is definitely doing the right things to help themselves. But however, as most communities in the state of Wyoming, you don't have the population to generate the revenue to do these projects on your own. You have to have some help. And therefore, we come here asking for some help, knowing that we're going to put some skin in the game and do the best that we can with what you give to us.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Pitts?
Do you, by moving your lines to a different place, which is necessary the way that things sound, do you have easements in place or do you still have to go get easements to move lines because that takes an incredible amount of time.
During our landfill one remediation project, which we awarded the bid 2 weeks ago. We are securing property next to it through that project. We are at the end stages of getting the land purchase completed.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Couple questions. Actually, I have ground around Newcastle. I see you've got bills for inside and outside the city. Do you allow people to have access to your water outside of the city limits? And because I see you've got billing both ways, but I know from personal interactions with you, you actually have no access to water outside unless you're annexed into the city. Can you explain that to me?
Yes, currently we do not allow new sales outside of the city limits, but we are in the process of changing our ordinance to allow water to be sold outside of the city limits. Our city attorney is reviewing the ordinance change right now. So hopefully within the next 3-4 months, we'll be able to again sell water outside of the city limits.
Mr. Chairman, would you be opposed to that being a condition of part of this? Because I really, it restricts Newcastle growing right now as you guys, because of your territorial limits, it literally makes it really hard for anything to happen. And I have a conflict. I own ground on the north side, fair game. I get it. But I'm telling you, the development, and you guys know it, happens beyond the territorial limits because of what happens with this water. There's no water in Newcastle. So would you be opposed to this being a condition of this?
Mr. Chairman, no, we are not opposed to it. As a matter of fact, I was the one that brought this to the city council to change over a year ago. It has been built into the new ordinance. It's just a matter of going through the hoops and finalizing this so we can sell water outside of the city limits.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Posey?
I would like to make a motion.
That'd be acceptable.
I move that we accept this Wyoming Water Development Office's recommendation on the Newcastle transmission pipeline conditional upon allowing outside access to the water system for outside users per the new city ordinance.
We have a motion with the condition. I would ask the sponsor before we move on if that would be reasonable.
As far as I can say, yes, our intent is to sell water outside of the city limits.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Commissioner Cott?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hosey, second by Commissioner Cott. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to make a comment on annexation and that type of thing is, you know, if allowing water to the outside the city limits is a good thing, and it does encourage growth. It may be incumbent on the city and the county to make sure that for those properties to be annexed, the development occurs in a manner that they can be annexed. Thank you.
Any comment, Director? And not that I disagree with anything that's been said, but I think we may be getting into an area that's not really our purview.
Because it was a condition of.
Yes, I understand. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, the next project is on page 254. This is the Elk Creek Relift Pump Station and Dempsey Diversion. So the sponsors requested design and construction of both pumps and motors at the Relift Pump Station, replacement of the Dempsey Diversion on Owl Creek, and then also a spillway on the Lucerne Canal. We know the Relift Station is nearing the end of its life. It's 70+ years old. That the Dempsey Diversion is failing. We have some questions about the spill on the Lucerne Canal. Our understanding is this is just where the canal overtopped at one point and is now being used as a spill, and we think it requires probably some additional investigation to see if this is actually the right place for a spill. So what we are recommending, and I should also say, you know, the other portions of this project, again, the relift station and the Dempsey diversion, absolutely crucial to this district. So we want to keep it moving. We are suggesting a 50% grant and 50% loan on the pre-construction of the relift station and the Dempsey diversion. Again, need some more information on the spill. And the reason we're doing pre-construction only is we know that the district, any additional funding or loans that they take on is going to be a large burden. They had a fairly large project a few years ago, and they are looking into a number of other funding sources, NRCS, Water Smart, Natural Resource Trust Fund, Trout Unlimited. So that would give them some time to continue to look for these matching funds, but keep the project moving with getting the designs in place. So with that, I'll hand it over to the sponsor.
Appreciate your time. Oh, sorry about that. Good morning. Appreciate your time and appreciate all the help that you guys have given us so far. My name is Paul Ward. I'm Owl Creek Irrigation District Board member. These projects are part of the irrigation system, and we're just trying to upgrade everything, try to get everything back to where they're working order. We are having some struggles with the relift station and the Dempsey ditch, diversion ditch. We just want to ask for some continuation of help, and we appreciate your time. Thank you.
Any questions? No questions. We have a motion to accept the director's recommendation. Commissioner Ansel.
Mr. Chair, I would move recommendation of the director's recommendation for Owl Creek Relift Pump Station, pre-construction 50% grant, 50% loan, in the amount of $188,000.
Have a second? Motion by Commissioner Anselmi Dalton, second by Commissioner Lawson. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, the next project is on page 264. This is the Powder River Irrigation District 15-mile siphon. So what the request is for funding to replace the siphon as well as the associated wasteway. When they did their 2025 master plan, this was obviously a very critical structure, and if it were to fail, 3/4 or more of the acres that are being served would be without water. It's a fairly large siphon. It's 5 foot in diameter. It's how they cross 15-mile drainage, and it was installed back in 1962. It's roughly 250 feet long. Our recommendation is for a 50% grant and a 50% loan in the total amount of $2.23 million. The sponsor is anticipating to get some NRCS funding. I think they're slated to maybe get that funding this next spring. And therefore, again, that's the reimbursement federal program. So they need a carrier loan, and whatever funding they don't get from NRCS, then they would take on that remaining portion of the loan. The only thing I would add to this is that this was originally contingent upon the transfer, and upon further kind of comparison between projects, we feel like this is a priority one project. It was critical enough that we felt like this one rose to the top, and we had enough other projects that were contingent that this one no longer needs to be contingent upon that transfer. So that would be a change to the original recommendation.
Okay, thank you.
With that, I'd hand it over to the sponsors.
Good morning. I'm Fred Carr with the president of the Powder River Irrigation District. Dick Gould, treasurer. Would like to thank you for funding our level 1 study this last year. And now we're on to the jumping level 2 and going on to level 3 for a new siphon. Any questions?
Any questions? Commissioner Rossi?
Mr. Chair, I'd just like to make an observation. I went and toured this and saw this siphon, and even to my untrained eye, it was obvious that we need to do this project. So with that, if there's no more discussion, I'd like to make
Any
a
other
motion.
discussion? Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move that we accept the recommendation for the Powder River ID 15-mile siphon project for 2026. for a total project, 2,230,000, 50% grant, 50% loan.
Motion by Commissioner
Not,
Host,
oh, sorry, not contingent upon this 16 million transfer. Okay.
motion by Commissioner Hosey, second by Commissioner Lawson. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the next project is on page 271. This is the Riverton West Main Street Transmission Pipeline. They recently completed a master plan, and what they are requesting is that for a significant portion of the West Main Street transmission main, roughly 13,000 feet, and a new control valve station. This was the first and second highest priorities in the master plan, slated for replacement. They were originally built back in 1962. One of the unique things here is YDOT's going to be tearing up that road a little bit with some resurfacing. And again, looking at the amounts of pipeline that need to be replaced, our recommendation is to only fund the portion that's going to be affected by the YDOT project. So of the roughly 13,000 feet, this would be a little less than 8,000 feet. And again, that just gets back to some of our needing to phase these larger projects so they're affordable for the program and being able to fund other sponsors at the same time. The other request that they made was there are some intersecting raw water lines in this alignment that they were asking for funding to replace. And again, keeping with and consistent with how we're treating raw water lines this year, we're not recommending funding on those pieces because I don't know that we know their condition or exactly where they are. So what we are recommending funding for is a 50% grant of $2,847,500. And this project, again, would be contingent upon the transfer, which is already in the recommendation. And with that, I'd hand it over to the sponsor.
There we go. Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity to be here this morning. I'm Brendan Toman, the Public Works Director for the City of Riverton. Our engineer, James Bruff. I really appreciate you considering this project. We've been working on this for a few years. Also appreciate the consideration of our level 1 study. This was the #1 project of the level 1 study, and the commission did approve just over $250,000 for that level 1 study. So we're really sincerely appreciative of that and the support that the City of Riverton has had from this commission as well. So thank you, and I'll stand for any questions you may have.
Any questions?
If the crossing water lines, those raw water lines aren't funded through this, how do you guys plan to fund that?
Good question. We've set aside some funds. So the City of Riverton has used the 1% fund to take care of a lot of our transmission mains. This particular transmission main, and the reason it's in front of you for consideration at this point is because we like to work with YDOT. We will consider this an equivalency project, which should give us 0% funding with our SRF funds that we've requested. I don't know if I have an answer to that right now.
No, just follow up. Just makes sense that when it's torn up to get it done at the same time.
I could add a little more. I'm sorry. We do have about just some funds in the capital fund as well under our water line. Probably the SRF funds may come in handy at this point to help to offset the cost of that. So I really appreciate your question. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Rossi.
I would like to move that we accept staff recommendation for the Riverton West Main Street Transmission Pipeline 2026 for a grant of $2,847,500.
Have a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hosey, second by Commissioner Glick. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And Mr. Chairman, the next project is on page 279. This is the Shoshone Well number 6 and transmission pipeline. The town of Shoshone is requesting funding for upgrades to well number 6. They've had quite a bit of water hammer issues with this, which is causing failures to their transmission pipeline. We are recommending a 50% grant in the amount of $679,000 to install some of these components and also to replace that 10-inch transmission pipeline from the well to the tank. Originally, the sponsor requested a 67% grant and also some components that were more water treatment related that we didn't feel were eligible. The other thing I would mention on this is that this project will need to be contingent upon the transfer of funds from 1 to 2, and that was not part of the original recommendation, so that will need to be part of the motion. With that, I'd hand it over to the sponsor.
Joel, yeah, and this is Joel Highsmith, Mayor of Shoshone. I'd like Kyle Lato, our engineer on this with HDR to address this.
Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity. We've been currently working with the town to replace several well houses throughout the town. And well 6 unfortunately wasn't able to be funded by that other project, and well 6 happens to be the location where 3 wells kind of converge with one water line, and they're treated at well 6 with gas chlorination, and then all of that string runs all the way up to the tank, which is out kind of by Boyson Reservoir. And so unfortunately that pipeline from well 6 up to the tank has had numerous pipe breaks over the years. They've had 2 or 3 boil orders because of it. Every time that water line breaks, it drains the tank completely and causes all kinds of problems for the town just trying to catch up. So this is just kind of some ongoing work to get that system up to snuff and get it functioning so they have some reliability on that system. So take any questions you might have.
Are there any questions? We have a motion. Commissioner Salmi-Dalton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that we approve the director's recommendation of a 50% grant for the Shoshone well number 6 and transmission pipeline in the amount of $679,000 contingent on the transfer of the funds from account 1 to 2.
We have a motion by Commissioner Anselmi-Dalton, second by Commissioner Glick. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, the next project is on page 286. This is the Sidon Irrigation District Byron Lateral. The district is looking for just pre-construction funding. They're planning to try to convert roughly 30,000 feet of the Byron Lateral from open ditch to a closed pipe system. This would have significant water loss improvements. They estimate 39% water loss in this particular section of canal. We are recommending funding for this, and they have funding for design from WaterSmart, but they're also going to be looking for matching funds for construction. So again, we're agreeing with their request for just pre-construction dollars. That would be a grant of $209,000. And this one would need to be contingent upon the transfer, which is not in the recommendation currently. Hand that over to the sponsor.
Jordan Brost I'm the manager of Sidon Irrigation, and this is Brian Dieter, our engineer. We have pretty bad moss problems with the ditch, which causes a lot of flooding, and then it runs through a oil field, and then there's a lot of abandoned oil field pipes. There's a couple pipes in there that are H2S that if you break that, it'll kill everybody within a half mile before the safety features kick in. So it's a pretty big safety concern, I guess, that we have to deal with.
Any questions? Can I have a motion?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Rosie,
I would like to move that we accept staff recommendation on the Sidon ID Byron lateral 2026 for a grant of 209,000 contingent upon the $16 million transfer.
Second.
motion, excuse me, motion by Commissioner Rosie, second by Commissioner Choma. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, the next project is on page 293. This is the Tillard Canal Rehabilitation and Pump Station. I'm going to hand this over to Bill.
And just as I start this, my belief is the sponsor would be online if we can try to get them. So once again, Chairman, I'm Bill Brewer, Deputy Director of Construction. This project is for the Tillard Irrigation District. Essentially, the district has two portable pumps that they actually move into the river with flex pipe that pumps the water up into their canal system. So basically they have to continuously adjust those pumps in the river depending on the elevation of the water in the river. The system is pretty well wore out and in need of replacement. However, we were not convinced that the district could come up with matching funds at this point or afford a loan. We even had dropped this down to just a pre-construction project, and we were even concerned whether or not they could afford the loan on the pre-construction. So I believe this is a good project. I believe if they can come up with their matching funds and find a way to fund this project, what our recommendation would be is to replace those two portable pumps and flexible pipe with a true diversion structure and pump station, bring it up to modern standards, and get the water flowing into their canal. They also have some check structure issues and stuff, but I think those are a little lower on the priority of worry at this point. Once we get the pump station up and flowing, if it had variable pumps, those check structure may work better. And it's definitely something down the road. Getting water into the canal is more important at this point. Like I say, I believe it's a good project. It does rank by the RPI as a top 1% of structures within the state. I believe we'd be tying up state funds at this point to fund it if they can't come up with the matching funds at this point. So it'd be a project I would recommend to come back if they can get matching funds because it is a worthwhile project.
Thank you. Thank you, Bill. Do we have a sponsor?
Mr. Chairman, we're having issues with getting them promoted to panelist at this time.
Commissioner Glick.
I have a question for you, Jason. This would be a Jason question, I think. It's if we how do we do it if we prove it today? And then if they get the funding later on during the year, is that an option so that they can, if they get their matching funds, then if we kind of approve it now, would that, before the end of the year, would they be able to still get that funding, our matching funds or no? Or how does that work? Because just if we approved it today, I want to make.
Contingent on if they get their matching funds.
Yeah, contingent, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I suppose if you were to do that, then the money would be appropriated to that particular project. And if they never got matching funds, then that money would be tied up for essentially the next 5 years, or at some point we could try to revert those funds through additional legislation. At this point, I'm not aware that they've even had much contact with the Bureau of Reclamation or NRCS to start pursuing those. And of course, that takes time, obviously, once you apply for those funds. So, and we just don't think they can afford the loan. And I think we've had confirmation from them that they appreciate us not moving forward, considering they can't afford the loan. It would be great if we could get them online, but I'm not sure if that's going to be able to happen.
Mr. Chairman.
Thanks.
Senator Bonner.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a little bit more
information. It looks like it's a $36,000 loan. Is that correct? And that they can't afford that. Just a little bit more detail. That seems like a relatively low amount compared to some of these other projects. So just a little bit more information since financing, it seems to be a good project. Financing is holding it up. I get the Bureau of Rec process, but maybe, well, why isn't financing, through a bank or other means, not an option?
Mr. Chairman, I really can't speak on behalf of the sponsor in regards to that. This is a very small district. There are 12 landowners associated with this district. So that might be part of it. But again, the pre-construction, the $36,550 would just be for pre-construction. If they were to move forward, the estimate to put the pump station in then is another roughly $460,000 worth of loan. Any luck with the sponsor online?
Mr. Chairman, I have not been able to get them online.
Mr. Chairman, the only thing I would suggest is we are at the end of our new recommendations. We'll be going into amendments here next. Because I suggest maybe we go on break and maybe we can try to reach out and get them online. I don't know if that's going to be able to happen, or get them on the phone and we can hold them up to the microphone. We can try.
Okay, thank you, Director. Commissioner Posey, you have a question?
Yes, I have a question. Director, do you know if either of these pumps or the pipe failed during the last irrigating season?
I'm not aware of them actually failing. I just know they are getting very close to end of life, and they require repair often. So yes, I believe they've failed, but not like outright failed. So they pull them out, work on them, shove them back in. Like I say, it's just a very
Typical.
archaic kind of system that they're using.
Thank you.
I think at the commissioner's or at the director's recommendation, we'll take a 10-minute break. Maybe we can have the sponsor on if there are questions for them. And if not, we'll have to move forward at that point. So let's return about 10 after. We agreed, Director, that we need a motion for a time extension for the director to.
Denied.
No. I believe we have someone online, a sponsor representative for the Children Pump Station project. Is that correct?
Yes, they are online now, Mr. Chairman.
Hello? Hello?
Introduce yourself, please.
Yeah, this is Cole Hill. I'm the president of the Tillard Canal District.
Thank you. Do you have anything that you'd like to add to the presentation by Director Mead?
No, I mean, I understand that we can't move forward right now because of funding issues. We are keep on looking for funding, and I'm hopeful that the Water Smart program gets to have more funding, but we're looking at other avenues as well.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the sponsor's representative?
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Bonner?
Yeah, while we're waiting for you to join, we just had some questions about the funding limitations. Could you just go a little bit more into that, a little bit more detail so we have a better understanding? Because it seems like a good project, but we heard that, funding's not in place. And so just a little bit more discussion there. Did something go wrong after you applied for, to the state for this funding? And what's the path forward? Just a little bit more detail would be helpful to include a potential timeline.
Well, the biggest one is Water Smart, and as you all know, that Water Smart is not able to be funded right now. That's kind of our biggest avenue for us to have, the water development to take on half, and then us being able to, we're just not able to take on half funding right now without a Water Smart or other type of funding. We're also looking at NRCS and stuff like that, but at the moment we're hopeful to find some more funding by next year or two. But right now we just don't have that. We're looking at also trying to increase our balance by increasing our water assessments. But that's going to take some time too.
Okay, thank you. I do have a question. Given the current physical condition of your pumps and the lift station, access to the river and so on, are you going to be able to continue irrigating with what you have in place with the old farmer method of bubble gum and baling wire? It appears maybe that's what you've been doing. Will your irrigators still, will you be able to deliver water to your irrigators?
We do still have, we have that emergency funding or emergency savings that we'll probably have to get into this next year. We're going to, I mean, we have to figure something out to keep, and like you said, baling wire. We'll probably keep on doing that. We've been doing that for 5+ years, probably.
Hey, thank you. Are there any other questions? Director?
Mr. Chairman, just sitting here and thinking of the situation, the statutes and the criteria does allow for funding to go up to 75% in hardship cases. Again, I don't know, we haven't had any conversations with the sponsor in regards to if they could afford 25% of some of the dollars that we've got in the recommendation or not, but just food for thought.
Thank you. think we've had this conversation before a time or two, and we always seem to, the answer always seems to be no, but I've asked, would it seem reasonable to table this action on this item for action at the next meeting, and maybe in the meantime, some other avenues could be explored to help with this project?
Mr. Chairman, I think that would make sense. It wouldn't be in the construction bill, but that would be something that I suppose can always be modified between the January meeting and the legislative session, if we were to able to find another avenue that we could bring to you.
Commission, would there be anyone who would consider making a motion to that effect?
I'd like to make a motion that we table this Tillard Canal Rehabilitation and Pump Station for the January meeting, and this will allow the director and the sponsor time to see if they can come up with 25%, as 75% could possibly be funded by Wyoming Water Development Hardship Grant. Thanks.
I have a motion to table action. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Glick, second by Commissioner Hosey. Any other discussion? Select order, would you like to weigh in on this? Any comments? Senator Boner?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, we'll see what we can do here. I suppose if it's a good project, it's worth looking into. And potentially even, depending on the progress between now and then, it could be a relatively simple amendment at that January meeting too. We won't have to wait to the session necessarily. So lots of flexibility here. And so trust the commission will, we'll continue to work on it. So.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Commissioner?
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Director, would you go over a little bit more of what's the number of irrigators this serves? What's the acreage? Some of what the scope of this project deals with, please?
Yep. So Mr. Chairman, as mentioned, there's 12 irrigators within the district, and that equates to 1,038 acres total, which meets the requirements of at least 1,000 irrigated acres from our criteria. I don't know if you want another explanation of the project itself in regards to the pumps and the replacement of those. Okay.
Any other questions? We have a motion on the floor to table action. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, we will now move on. But because of the delays with the environmental reviews, they need an extension. So the recommended extension would be from July 1st, 2026 to July 1st of 2028. And we do have a representative.
Yeah, I'm Robert Hood with Sunrise Engineering, and we're working on that plan environmental assessment with the NRCS funding. That has been submitted and is under review by them currently. I believe there may be a member of the board online, Mr. Ayer, possibly, that could answer any questions. No? Well, I can answer any questions you might have.
Are there any questions? Mr. Blick?
Why is it a 2-year extension?
The timeline on this is really kind of unknown because it's in the hands of NRCS. So I think a 2-year extension just provides that extra cushion with us not fully knowing when we'll have the environmental process reviewed.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Can I have a motion for the director's recommendation, additional time?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move that we accept staff recommendation for a time extension for the Austin Wall Reservoir Rehabilitation 2019.
Have a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Ossie, second by Commissioner Choma. Any other discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay, the next project's on page 304. This is the Deaver Irrigation District Rehabilitation 2022, and I'm going to hand this over to Bill for explanation.
Chairman Commission, Bill Brewer again. This project, like a few of the projects we've had in the last few years, pipeline project that was approved, bids came in high, which we've been seeing off and on still. It's getting much better. We've been doing a lot less of these recently. However, the request is to modify the project to eliminate a portion of the project to allow it to be built within the budget. The original request from the district was to eliminate the upper portion, kind of low pressure portion of the pipeline from their contractor's contract and move forward with the remaining project. And then they wanted to do the upper portion, kind of convert that over to a materials only project and build that low pressure project on their own. Just for ease of contractual, we actually think it'd be easier to modify the project to eliminate that upper portion for this project and call that the end of this project, and then introduce a new materials only project in the 26th legislation to do that 100% materials only on that upper pipeline and kind of break this up into two separate projects. That's essentially the main idea of this project is a funded project in 2022 legislation to replace basically an existing aged pipeline and open ditch. The open ditch also flows past the end of that ditch and has made nice little gully out there. I was out there and kind of looked at that, and it's that the return water is really causing a lot of problems. This pipeline would eliminate that problem because at the end, basically it would drain once a year when you drain the pipe. So it's curing a lot of problems. So the sponsor is here, so I would turn over to Jerry if he's got any more information.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. My name is Jerry Dart. I'm the manager of the Deaver Irrigation District. As Bill pointed out, this project fell into the going over budget, but I'm determined to get it completed. What we'd like to do is just ask for the time extension as explained, and the remaining funds, we'll do the work ourselves. We're just going to chop off portions of the top of the project and then just do two or three, actually three of the top turnout systems and leave the existing pipe in place. So that will keep us within budget. Of the 800 and something $1,000 originally given to us with the change orders, there'll only be about 600,000 of it used, but I am asking for just about $135,000 more for the actual materials that will be needed to get it fully completed. So thank you for consideration of our project.
Have any questions for Mr. Dart or the director or Bill?
And one thing I would say is we'll probably need to sit down with the district before we move forward on that materials only, being we're breaking this up into two projects to make sure we fund that materials only project properly. What we had in here originally was an increase of 135,000. However, if we're changing this into two projects, we're probably going to see some money reverted from the first project, which means the second project would actually have to have enough money to fund that as a separate project. So we'd probably be looking at a partial reversion of funds on one project and then probably a little more than this 135,000 for the materials only project. So that will be something we'll have to rework before the January meeting and present this to you at that point.
Thank you, Bill. Commissioner Pence?
Moving forward, you do want to do 100% materials project. Does your district have the capability with the manpower and the equipment to do that?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. What work we will be changing in the scope of that, we have the equipment, we have the manpower to actually, we're going to be removing some open system boxes and tying into the existing pipeline with closed valves and meters. So we do have that ability. And even doing the change orders that we're agreeing to with the contractors, we're still going to fall short, and we're still going to have to absorb some of the costs, put some skin in the game in terms of pressure testing the remaining pipe. But to answer your question, Mr. Chairman, yes, we have the resources.
Okay, thank you. I have a question for Bill. Obviously, based on what you're saying, some reversion of funds, the 135,390, that's the estimate without the reversion of funds, is that correct?
Correct. So that would be what the district was going to need additionally. And I misunderstood that when we were working earlier. I thought that was what we were going to need for the materials only. But what they're saying is it's what they're going to need additional to the funds they have. So if we split this into two projects, we're going to have to make accounting that one project's going to end up reverting a little bit of money at the end, but the other project would need a little bit more. So the increase would be 135, but it's going to be a little different on paperwork on how that money is split to make sure it's.
You'll handle that internally, though. It shouldn't be part of the motion.
No, it doesn't need, basically what I would say is that we will re-review this in January with final numbers.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions?
I just want to clarify one thing. So really all we're asking for right now is a time extension.
And 135,390.
And I would, to be honest, I would rather just table all of it because there's a couple different moving parts here. So I think it would be cleaner in January to come forward with two different documents, which is what we're thinking we're going to move forward with the approval of the commission to split this project up. And if we split the project up, then we would be coming forward with a modification to eliminate part of the project, a time extension for the original project, and then a separate project that would be a materials only project for a portion of what's the original project. So I think they both need to be reworked.
So are you asking us to table action until January in its entirety?
I'd say table the motion and give the office permission to move forward in this idea of splitting the project up.
Well, Mr. Chairman, the reason why I think that is kind of two different sets of numbers is as we accepted a bid that was over, then did a change order to get it within the available funding. As those numbers changed, the eligible fundings from water development is only going to be 30% of the total project. So as the size of the project got reduced in number, that 30% is always moving away from us. So we had to get close enough. We reduced the project down to where it's just going to cost us a little bit of money to still take advantage of that 30%, but it's not enough to fully complete what we're chopping off of the project to get into that. So it is kind of complicated. So I believe they're just asking to, okay, complete it with the 30%, and then phase two is the $135,000 with that extension. And we have asked for the extension from Water Smart as well. That's coming up as well. So we need a little more time to do it, but I don't know how clean it needs to be, but that's why those numbers worked out that way.
Commissioner Blake?
I'd like to make a motion. Yeah.
Senator Larson, I think, had a comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Glad you're here, Jerry.
at one time we had discussed that you're gonna try to pressurize that upper portion. Have you done that or that's gonna be after the season next year to test the pipe? Mr. Chair, that, to pressurize or pressure test it?
Pressure test it. Yes.
That's, Mr. Chair, that's part of what we're going to have the contractors do. It's going to be very crude to begin with in terms of what remaining pipe will stay in as phase one. But before we leave that old section of pipe in, which is what we chopped off the project to get it to become affordable, we as the district will have to foot that bill to have it pressurized so that when I take those boxes out, those 3 turnout concrete boxes out, I'll have to plate them, with a dresser or something like that, and then we'll have to pressure test that pipe. Even though it is low pressure up at the top, probably no more than 25 PSI, we just don't know the history of the pipe. So we're going to have to absorb that cost on ourselves in addition to the actual labor, but we're asking for the materials to actually put those turnouts. And I would assume that if we did find some failures in the pipe, that we would have to take care of that ourselves. But is that to answer your question?
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
Yes, I'd, I'd like to make a motion that, we do a time extension where they could, if we split the projects in 2, do a time extension on the first portion, and if, any funding is left over, that will be reverted back. And so then this can be all set up. We're gonna give the directors, in the Wyoming Water Development Office permission to get all of this set up and ready to bring back 2 different projects to the January meeting.
We have a motion for time extension. And if I understand
right?
correctly.
Was that
motion-
complicated?
Mr. Chairman, I think just to simplify things, just table this until January.
In its entirety.
And then we'll bring it back in the draft omnibus bill, how it makes most sense for you guys' consideration.
Okay.
So I have a motion, but do I have a second to the motion? Motion dies for lack of a second, so I need another motion.
Yeah.
Commissioner Anselmi Dalton,
Mr. Chair, I would motion that we table this project until the January meeting.
do I have a second? Motion to table the project by Commissioner Anselmi Dalton, second by Commissioner Hosey. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes.
All right, Mr. Chairman, the next project is on page 307, and I would suggest that we also consider the project on page 308. So we're dealing with the interstate diversion structure rehabilitation from 2019. And then the next project is the same project, but from 2021. So this was the diversion structure on Burnt Creek plus putting ditch into pipe for a pretty good length of ditch. So that was then phased into 2 separate replacements, or I should say conversions of ditch to pipe. So in total, there's 3 different phases of this project, the diversion and then 2 sections of ditch to pipe. They went back and got some funds from the salinity control program, and then that and land access issues have delayed the project. They are now currently under construction, but they think that the final project closeout will probably most likely occur sometime after the reversion date. So for both these projects, we're asking for a reversion extension from July 1st, 26 to July 1st of 28. With that, we do have a project sponsor like to introduce himself.
Hi, I'm Randy Lauder. I'm president of the Interstate Irrigation District and Canal Company. We are under construction, the diversion structure. The final concrete pour on it will be Thursday, and that upper part should be done other than the reseeding. As far as the other part, we had to redesign 4,000 feet of the pipe because we got into a bunch of groundwater and we sunk a large track hole, drove across it, and it just went down. The operator had to crawl out of the window to get out of it. And so we are changing our course. We've got permission from the landowner to move our easement, to reroute it and stuff. So it's going to cost us a little extra money as far as that part. And that's why we are here before you.
Mr. Chairman, just to clarify, the change in conditions that was realized, I guess, during construction was sinking their equipment. That's going to be handled here in just a few minutes under the sponsor contingency request agenda item. So for this particular recommendation, it's just time extensions.
Are there any questions? Commissioner Cott?
Hearing no questions, like to make a motion to approve the time extensions for the interstate, what do we call, interstate irrigation project, and from 2026 to 2028, is that correct? Yep. And so.
Have a motion, have a second? Second. Motion by Commissioner Cott, second by Commissioner Anselmi Dalton. Any discussion?
Yes.
Oh, go ahead. Commissioner Ossie?
All right, just to be clear, are we doing an extension for both projects?
This is the one.
In the one,
Yes.
because,
We'll address the second one next.
okay.
Any other questions or discussion? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
So I'd like to make a motion on the second time extension from 2026 to 28 for the interstate irrigation project. This is in McKinnon, Wyoming, next to Flaming Gorge on the southern line of the state.
Director?
Mr. Chairman, so we discussed these together. The first project you made a motion on was the 2019 project for the diversion structure. This one's the 2021 project, which is the first phase of the ditch to pipe project. So this motion would be on the 2021 project, also for the 2-year extension. We already handled the 2019 project for a 2-year extension, just for clarity.
Right. Thank you. So we have a motion for the extension of the 2021 project. Do we have a second? Second. Motion by Commissioner Cott, second by Commissioner Choma. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, we'll move on to the last amendment, and that is
Mr.
the
Chairman.
Kirby Ditch Irrigation District Pipeline.
Mr. Chairman. Sorry.
Commissioner Bonner?
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. It just had a select water committee designation next to that last item. I was wondering if the director had anything for select water committee on that last time extension there.
Mr. Chairman, no, but that will be part of the sponsor's contingency request, which is just a little bit later in the agenda.
Okay.
That would require your action.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Just want to make sure. Thank you.
Okay, so we are on page 309. This is the Kirby Ditch Irrigation District Pipeline Phase 2 project. I'm going to hand this over to Bill for explanation.
So this is the Kirby Ditch Pipeline Phase 2 2024 project that we're talking about for the Kirby Ditch Irrigation District. And this has a couple issues going on, one of which we just found out on Monday. So I will try to move through this as clearly as I can. The original recommendation and request for this project is another project that came in over budget, or at least the proposed engineering estimates right now are looking like this project could potentially be over budget. The district had came to us and asked if they could potentially have a modification on this project. So what we're looking at is doing a modification. Instead of doing the diversion structure an upper portion of the canal and a lower portion of the canal, that we would bid this out to do the diversion structure and complete, the upper portion of the canal complete, and then for that lower portion of the canal, bidding it kind of in a phased method where the contractor could bid it maybe on 100-foot sections. And we would do as much of that ditch to pipeline as we could afford within budget. So rather than asking for more money, we would potentially reduce that portion of the project slightly to stay within budget that we have. So that's the original request that was going on. And we probably should just finish that portion of it and then maybe go into the second portion after. So the sponsor is here. If you have any questions or information.
Chip Axtell with Kirby Ditch Irrigation District. So part of our troubles is we haven't been able to get matching funds. We kind of had a verbal from NRCS for 900,000 that would help with this upper end construction. But with the government shutdown, we haven't heard. And so we were told that we could ask for a bridge loan from you guys. I don't know how wise that would be because we can't go forward with this without matching funds. So with that, the thought for pushing this forward and making a modification would be to get it done before prices increase anymore. So that's kind of where we're at. I'll try and answer questions if I can.
Are there any questions? Can I have a motion to accept the?
So, and I guess probably what we should do is kind of discuss this possibility of a loan. Part of the issue is with NRCS funding, it is paid, NRCS pays upon completion. So the original project, it was assuming it was going to be a Water Smart project. Water Smart pays similarly to what the way we pay, which is as the contractor is building the project and sends in their monthly invoices, we pay those monthly invoices moving forward. When a district ends up with NRCS funding, what happens is we often offer what's called a bridge loan. And that way we pay the 50% grant, we pay a 50% loan through the project so that the contractor can get their payments throughout the project. And then at the end of the project, when the project is complete, NRCS refunds their portion of the project. The sponsor then pays off their loan or a majority portion of their loan. And then either the loan is completely paid off or we just carry on the small portion of the loan that the NRCS didn't cover. So in this project, because it was originally looking to be a Water Smart project, we did not provide a carrier loan. The sponsor had originally asked for 67% grant, 33% loan. It was at a time when we were no longer doing the 67% grants. So we reduced the grant to 50%, and we didn't offer a loan because we were expecting the matching money to be Water Smart. Now that there's some issues with Water Smart money and the district is kind of looking at maybe using NRCS, the question came up is whether they would need a carrier loan or not to cover them until the end of the project. So these are kind of two different issues going on here. One is potential overrun where we want to be able to have some flexibility to reduce the project slightly. The other one is the question of would the commission want to provide the district a carrier loan if they have to use NRCS funding, which they don't have secured at this point. So kind of.
Mr. Chairman, the other option or the question for the sponsor would then be if they don't want the carrier loan, can they more or less front the money to pay the contractor until they get reimbursed at the end of the project from the NRCS?
So we could not front the money. And if those funding sources didn't come through, I don't see how we could increase our assessment enough to cover this project. But I would say this project was designed to be enclosed. And we had to modify our original project to do 2 miles of buried pipe in the middle of the project. And so now we're gonna go to the front and the bottom end of this to make it like it was designed to be an enclosed system. So it's working, what we did is working right now, but we do want to keep pushing forward and getting it complete, per design. But I'm, don't have a resolution from my board. We couldn't front the money for that ourselves.
I have a couple of questions. One regarding the bridge loan. Typically, do we commit to a bridge loan without being confident that the NRCS funds would be available at a later date?
Mr. Chairman, that's a good question. I think, there's no requirement to actually start spending down that loan. If they don't have the matching funds and they can't afford the loan, then they're not going to use the grant money either, and the project wouldn't move forward. I guess my only concern is if they're anticipating getting the 900,000 from NRCS, and they have no way of paying the matching or to pay the contractor and then get reimbursed from NRCS later, then the project's going to get delayed until they realize that and come back next year for a bridge loan. So again, this came to us on Monday. So, and I don't know that communication's been all that great amongst everybody, including maybe within the district.
Right.
On who we talk to, and now Chip's here. So this may be another one that should be tabled until January, until we actually have some further conversation and better understanding of the situation. And maybe the government will open back up and they'll get a better feel from the NRCS as well.
So I have a question for Bill on the recommendation is a project modification. Bill and the sponsors representative, maybe the two of you can answer this. Where are we at with, it's the off season. It's the time of the year to do construction on these irrigation projects. So where would we be with construction if we tabled this until the January meeting?
My understanding is construction on this project would not occur until next off season.
Oh, I see.
No, it would not. And so we're actually doing a project right now. It's a spill that you guys helped fund. So thank you for that because it was very necessary. And then next fall is when we really thought if everything went right, we would put out for bids and just get it done for the next off season.
So with that in mind, it makes sense to me that maybe we do table this until the next meeting. Any discussion regarding that? Commissioner Anselmo?
No discussions.
Proceed.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to table this to see if they get the funding if the government opens up.
I have a motion to table the action on this item. Do I have a second? Second by Commissioner, motion by Commissioner Anselmo Dalton, second by Commissioner Glick. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're getting real good at kicking the can down the road.
Yeah. Well, thank you all.
Thanks for
Appreciate
your
it.
time. Meanwhile, construction costs go up.
Okay, so Mr. Chairman, we are now moving on to our planning studies. And again, just like yesterday, and for the Select Water Committee members who may not have been here, if you recall back in May, we had sponsors for all the applied for planning studies show up, and we vetted those, approved those. And then since then, we've gone through consultant selection process, competitive bidding process, determined which consultants we'd like to contract with and the dollar amounts it's going to be required to complete those studies. So referring again to the account 2 summary sheet, I'm just going to read through those dollar amounts that have been added to the original recommendations. So for the level 2 projects, the first being the Casper Alcova Irrigation District lateral rehab, the appropriation would be for $308,000. The Wheatland source and transmission evaluation would be $220,000. And then the level 1 project out of account 2 for the Shoshone Irrigation District Master Plan for $470,000. And then these would show up in the draft omnibus water bill planning at the January meeting.
Thank you, Director. We've discussed these previously. Can we consider them as a block? Director? Well, can we consider these as,
Mr. Chairman,
a
if that's
block?
your pleasure, that's what you did yesterday on the account one studies.
we have a motion? Commissioner Todd?
I move that we consider these projects as a block.
Would you like to make a motion?
I would like to make that a motion. And I believe that's the Casper Irrigation District lateral rehabilitation, the Wheatland source and transmission evaluation, and the Shoshone Irrigation District Master Plan. I'd like to move that those be approved as a block. Is that correct? Did I get them
Motion
all?
to approve the three items that Commissioner Cott mentioned, by Commissioner Cott, seconded by Commissioner Hosey. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The last recommendation for today, before we move into other action items, is the small water project program for the rehabilitation or account 2. I did not write down the page number. Can somebody give me a page number for that out of the recommendations notebook? Louder, please.
It's page 338.
Huh.
338, Director.
Thank you. Yeah. All right, so again, this is rehabilitation projects in the small water program. We currently have a balance of around $114,500. As you can see on that recommendation sheets, past 2 years, we've added $500,000. We're recommending doing the same, which would bring the funding available for this coming year's applications to $614,502. Did look at the last 5 years of requests, and the last 5 years averaged out to be about $530,000. So we would be slightly above that. Last year was a pretty significant year. We had actually $1 million of requests, but we'll have to live within our means. So that the adding of $500,000 to account 2 small water program would be the recommendation in front of you.
Any questions? We have a motion. Commissioner Hosey?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to move that we approve the $500,000 addition to the small water project program rehabilitation.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hosey, second by Commissioner Pence. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, now we are on agenda item number 11, which is a sponsor contingency account request. And would ask that the Interstate Irrigation and Reservoir Irrigation District representative come back up just in case there's any questions. And again, I did not write down the page number for this, but we are back on the e-notebook, not the recommendations notebook, but the e-notebook. 182. Thank you. And then I'll hand it over to Bill for explanation.
Chairman, Bill Brewer again. As we've already heard a little bit on this project was originally looked at as a single project. Funding restrictions at the time, we realized that this would be broke up into multiple phases. It worked out that 3 phases made sense. Those 3 phases have been moving along and are all currently in construction. However, during some work at the site, they realized that there was an area that was very swampy. Basically, that area goes at the base of a hill where this open canal, that's a very shallow open canal, and it's saturated that land for years. There's also a spring right there that continuously flows that saturates this land for years. In earlier investigations, they knew it was wet, but they didn't realize how deep it was wet. So as the equipment got up there, instead of just being soft, the equipment disappeared. So essentially the contractors put in a modification, working with the engineer to divert about 4,000 feet of this pipeline. However, that portion open ditch needs to remain in place because the landowner there uses that to transport that spring water. That is his separate water right. They've shared the canal for years, but now as the district is moving to a pipeline, he still needs that portion of the ditch to exist. So through this work, we're also, a couple of his structures will also be damaged. But essentially we're looking at, about a little under a $200,000 shortfall. And honestly, for all the rework we're doing to be within that close, I think is pretty amazing. So the sponsor is asking for $98,500 in additional funding to be able to complete this project. And with this major modification, it works out to about 2.2% increase in this project funding. So I think it's a pretty reasonable request. This is a relatively small district. Sponsor can inform you a little more on that. And they are generally charging a fair assessment rate on their land. So it'd be pretty tight to increase their budgets much more to cover this little bit of a gap. So I'll turn it over to the sponsor.
Hello again. I'm Randy Lauder, president of the Interstate Irrigation District and Canal Company. I'm hoping we also have the engineer on the internet.
Yes, I am here.
If you have any questions, him or I will answer them for you.
Are there any questions? So, Bill, I'd like to ask, I need a clarification. The request is for contingency, use of contingency funds, and what's the dollar amount?
Could you state that one more time? I didn't hear you.
So the contingency fund request, what is the amount?
The request is for 98,500.
98,500.
From the account to sponsors contingency.
Okay, any questions for the sponsor for Bill? Commissioner Codd?
I just want to make a statement. It's an interstate district, but all this work will be in the state of Wyoming. Is that correct, Mr. Lauder?
No, it's not. It's part of our canal system is in Utah, but it primarily feeds Wyoming water users.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Any other questions? So Director, I believe prior discussion, we need a recommendation from Select Water before we act. Is that correct? Select Water?
Yeah, I'll entertain a motion for recommendations to the commission. Senator Crum. Anybody? I'll make that. Okay.
Yeah, I'll move.
Okay, moved by Senator Larson. Do I have a second? Seconded by
Okay.
Representative Dalton. All those in favor, say aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Thank you. Any questions for Bill or the sponsor? If not, we have a motion for use of the contingency funds. Commissioner Cayley?
Go ahead. Okay.
Commissioner Codd?
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to approve the use of the user contingency fund for $98,500 to make this adjustment in their water or their irrigation system.
Have a second? Second. Motion by Commissioner Cott, second by Commissioner Cayley. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you, gentlemen. We really appreciate it.
Here comes Bill.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, we are on agenda item number 12. This is the Douglas Sheep Mountain Well number 2 transfer, and I'll hand it over to George Mosier. Good morning, Mr. Chair. George Mosher, again with the Water Development Office. For your consideration is a recommendation for a well transfer, which I believe you'll find starting on page 184 of the e-notebook. Commissioners, we've talked several times over the past couple years about the Douglas well drilling project. This is a level 2 planning study. The purpose for this study was to try to identify a source of additional groundwater to supply the community of Douglas. It was a project that was first funded in 2017, and then due to a pretty protracted easement and access process, we didn't end up beginning the drilling until the winter of 23-24. You'll probably also remember that that drilling program was a little bit fraught with problems. Ultimately, the contractor that was in place at that time, they had to plug and abandon a partial borehole, including some drilling equipment, because they were stuck in the hole. Ultimately, this last winter, we were able to drill and complete a functional test well, and then perform some pump testing in the spring, in the March-April time period. The well itself is located about 7 miles west-southwest of town, so a little bit of distance outside of town. It's kind of located close, though, say a quarter of a mile away from their existing Sheep Mountain #1 well. We use some of that Sheep Mountain #1 information to help us pick and identify drilling target depths. Ultimately, we drilled a well that's about 1,350 feet deep. It's open hole from 455 down to that total depth. Unfortunately, when we did the pump testing on this well, we discovered that it's not nearly as productive as we'd hoped. When we look at how much capacity could be in this well, based on that casing interval and being protective of an ultimate pump that would go into it, we talk about a long-term rate of about 200 gallons a minute. And then for another problem with the well, we also found that it exceeds primary drinking water quality standards for a number of constituents, gross alpha, radium-226, and then predominantly based on the radium-226, it exceeds for a combined radium-226, 228. So with that in mind, we did a little bit of back of the envelope calculation on what costs would be to provide this 200 gallons a minute potentially into the Douglas system. We looked at kind of 3 different options. One would be to blend the water with the Sheep Mountain #1, which is nearby, and then upsize a couple of key areas of the transmission pipeline. That cost works out to be about $4 million. And when we talk about blending, we have to think about the ratios in order to maintain primary drinking water standards. And so because of the levels of gross alpha and radium, we're really only able to realize a benefit of about 36 gallons per minute out of this Sheep Mountain #2. So we're talking about 36 gallons a minute for $4 million. Similarly, we talked about blending with another source that Douglas has, the Little Box Elder Spring. The cost to provide that pipeline as dedication in order to blend that in with their system is a little north of $15 million. And we also evaluated what it would take to put an on-site treatment plant, like an ion exchange. You can run it through a media that has maybe a 2 to 5 year lifespan before you replace it. The costs associated with that and also some transmission upsizing is about $4.6 million. So not to steal too much thunder from what will eventually be a closeout of this project, but the consultant does not recommend that this is a particularly feasible source for water from a financial perspective to supply water to Douglas. That leaves us then with a decision of what's the future of this Sheep Mountain #2 well that we have drilled under the project. From the commission's perspective, there really are maybe 4 options, maybe 3 with like a subpart of one. So the first would be
We have an easement and access agreement with the landowner for this well. It would expire in May of next year. If we don't do anything, this well would become an idle well for the commission. So that's option number one. Option number two would be that if the program ultimately finds that it's not feasible to supply the sponsor, we can turn over this well to the landowner if they so choose to accept it. The costs for that by our easement and access agreement are offered for no more than what the commission paid for the easement and access and ability to test this well to begin with. So that's about $4,400. If the landowner does not wish to acquire this, the commission can proceed under the current level 2 study with plugging and abandoning it. That would ultimately be a cost to the commission, to the project, for something on the order of $100,000. This is a 12-inch borehole well, 1,400 feet deep, a little bit remote from town. It's going to take significant money to be able to plug and abandon that. And that leaves us ultimately with the fourth option, which is what staff is recommending that the commission, staff is recommending that the commission embrace, and that is that Douglas, through their Public Works Department, sees some value in actually owning this well and using it as an aquifer monitoring point. They have another well right in that area that is a primary groundwater source for them. And so the Douglas staff actually approached their council. Page 2 of my recommendation here is a resolution from their council where they are proposing to purchase from the Water Development Commission this well for the direct drilling costs. So that option, option 4, would result in a net positive to the Water Development Commission accounts on the order of $610,838. The staff is obviously recommending that that be the path forward. In order to accomplish that, we will need some enabling legislation. And so this would look very much like last year's enabling legislation that we did with the Board of Public Utilities to transfer the Belvoir 5 and 6, and to some degree looks a lot like what we did with the Aladdin project. Currently, the office and the commission don't have the authority to sell this well to Douglas, and it's as simple as being able to include some language in the omnibus construction bill that would allow the commission to do that. If you have questions about the project or how it's developed over time, I'd certainly entertain those. A recommended motion is provided at the bottom of the first page of that memo. And Mr. Chair, I would stand for any questions you may have.
Are there any questions, Commissioner-select Water?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I might be confused about what the issue is here. It sounds like the problem is the water, the test quality showed that the water is not potable. Are there non-potable uses for that water, possibly irrigation or anything else that you could produce the water and make some use of it?
Mr. Chair, thank you for that question. There could be. We evaluated a couple of different options for like blending, as I said before. And one of the things that a person could think about is just as a raw water source, right? What would it take as a raw water source? The problem with that is the remoteness from town. So you're talking about a dedicated transmission line then for a 200-gallon-a-minute well to provide that water be roughly parallel to their existing transmission line. And then at that point, we're talking about a 5 or 6 mile transmission line for a raw water source. Ultimately, that just doesn't pencil out very economically.
Go ahead.
Oh, come on now. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is, how was the $610,000 valuation made?
Mr. Chair, thank you for that question. What we do when we, so I should back up a second. The level 2 process for hiring a water well contractor involves a competitive bid. And the idea with that competitive bid process is that ultimately, if the well is successful, it's going to be something that gets transferred to the sponsor. And we want to make sure that that competitive bid process got the best price for the money. When we awarded that, we did award that through a competitive bid process. I believe there were 3 drillers that bid on this project, and we selected the lowest price qualified contractor to perform the services. When we look through what the cost would be to transfer something, and we do this when a well would go from a level 2 to a level 3, we actually itemize the costs that would be directly attributable to drilling and completing it. We don't include the professional services, right? So that doesn't include the professional geologist that sits on the well site. It doesn't include the report preparation and stuff like that. It is purely the line item of what it took to mobilize a drilling contractor to that site and the materials that they installed and the time that they took in order to drill the borehole.
Thank you. Follow up. I appreciate that because it makes sense of what you just said. But then I'm looking at, we're willing to transfer it to the landowner for 4,000 something, you said.
Mm-hmm.
But we're willing to transfer it to the city for 610,000. From the state of Wyoming point of view, great, give us the 610,000. But I'm just wondering why such a disparity, because all those things you just said are true for the landowner too. You had all that as well. So I'm just, why the difference to the city?
Mr. Chair, that's a fabulous question. In part, it relates to the easement and access negotiation process. So this well is located on private property. It's located on land that the city of Douglas does not own. And when we approach a landowner for easement and access, we are able to offer them fair market value associated with the area of construction, the area of disturbance, and the area that it takes to develop an easement and access road. And contractually, what is offered there is a series of things. And what it comes down to is, if through the process of drilling that well, it's determined that it's not feasible to develop the well for the sponsor, basically, the access agreement says the commission is responsible for plugging it. However, there is a clause that says if the commission determines that we're going to plug the well, we are then obligated to offer back to the original entity that granted us easement and access the ability to just take it over. And the take it over clause says that the commission can require no more money than was originally offered for the easement and access to begin with. So I guess it is a multi-part moving process there. The discrepancy that I would say doesn't come up in the easement and access process there is that normally the sponsor acquiring something that's not going to be used for a project purpose right now, that's a rarity. Normally these either go to a level 3 project or we would be plugging and abandoning them. So under that framework, usually the question is, does the commission want to turn the well over to the landowner for a very low value, or would the commission like to spend $110,000 to plug and abandon it? It's already in the ground at that point. So this is a little bit abnormal, but I think it's a great option for the commission.
A great option.
Thank you. I do have a couple of questions. I don't think it's a question of what we should probably do, how we should proceed, but what would be the value to the landowner to this well with the levels of radium and so on that you just mentioned?
Mr. Chair, that's a fabulous question. We have had a few conversations with the landowner on that. I think they have seen that there might be some value for some stock watering use or potentially for some irrigation. You got to keep in mind this is roughly a 200 gallon a minute well, so it's not something that's really going to drive a pivot. In addition, they're going to have to probably look at some power supply along that line, unless they would develop it as a small stock watering improvement or something like that. Also, the landowner has not been especially committal about whether they really want to take it over, if it is an option to take it over. They've remained fairly quiet on that, recognizing that it's not quite an option for them yet.
I guess I feel like it's just my opinion for what it's worth. If it's not suitable for potable water for human consumption, I'm not sure it's suitable for livestock water either without treatment. That's my opinion, having been in the livestock business all of my life. But regardless of that, I think that makes sense to me to move forward with the recommendation for some legislation to turn this over to the city of Douglas. That's my opinion. Any other discussion or questions? Commissioner Ossie?
Chairman, I would just like to add a little bit to the discussion. I know that them taking over ownership would probably imply that they're on the hook for the plug and abandon cost, but I think we should put clarifying language in there that in addition to taking the ownership, you take responsibility for the plugging and abandoning costs.
Mr. Chair, that's an excellent comment. We have typically embraced that and do as part of the ultimate agreement. So keeping in mind that once there's enabling legislation, there will still need to be a contract that would be presented back to the commission and ultimately signed and approved by the commission and also by Douglas. When we have done those, like, last year's case of Aladdin, of the Board of Public Utilities, the contract included that language that required that they were responsible for the continued operation and maintenance of it and ultimately plugging and abandoning if that became necessary.
Commissioner Pitts?
Who has the first right on that well? Is it the city of Douglas because they were the sponsor, or the landowner in the agreement?
Our agreement right now, we are the primary responsible party, and there is an option for the commission to assign all of their interest in the easement and access agreement to the sponsor.
What if the landowner decided, I want that, and then he goes to Douglas and says, I'll sell it to you for 500,000? I mean, does he have what, I mean, is that up to us? I mean, or in the easement agreement, does he have a right to have the first shot at it?
Mr. Chair, the right of the landowner under the easement and access to take over the well is only instituted after we notify them that we intend to plug and abandon it.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Commissioner Cott?
Mr. Chairman, just a question regarding the safety of this water. I mean, if we dilute it, I can see that being safe. If we don't dilute it, what's the safety of this water? I mean, it can be used for anything? I mean, help me out here.
Mr. Chair, the purpose of the study was to evaluate providing this water for a source of supply for Douglas. So within that framework, we have been diligent in pursuing what those uses would be for the sponsor. The study has not evaluated what the uses might be for other things. To the extent that Douglas wants to use this purely as a water level monitoring point, I mean, they're not going to be extracting any water or really using it, so I don't think that it really poses any risk.
Are there
Mr.
any
Chair.
other questions? Commissioner Kaylee?
Yeah, I just had a question for George. Hasn't some of these been used, these wells that are contaminated with radium and other nuclear type compounds? Can't they, I think they've been used for cisterns for firefighting in the areas, that they could fill them up, truck them to different cisterns and use it to lower their insurance costs on their properties. Haven't we seen that in the past?
Mr. Chair, I guess I'm not really familiar with those activities. My first blush at that, though, is this well is once again fairly remote. We're through 3 locked gates for a ranch and down a pretty long dirt access road. So it's
Yeah.
not something that we evaluated, but it seems like kind of a remote thing to me.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? So Director, I'm not sure how we proceed with the motion. The recommendation, if I'm understanding correctly, is to,
Mr. Chair, there is a proposed motion at the bottom of the first page of that recommendation.
Mr. Chair, I would like to make a motion.
Commissioner Hosey,
I move the commission accepts the proposal from Douglas to purchase the Sheep Mountain #2 well for $610,838. Further, the commission recommends that the 2026 omnibus water bill construction contain language authorizing the transfer. So that's my motion.
Second.
motion made by Commissioner Hosey, second by Commissioner Pence. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, George.
Good job, George.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to have Bill Brewer come up. He's going to give some quick updates on the Goshen Irrigation District Tunnels Rehab Project as well as LaPrel Dam.
So Chairman, Bill Brewer again. I'll apologize because I was intending this to be a very brief update on these 2 projects because I assumed you would be scrambling to get out of here for the day. But we're way ahead of schedule. So we have plenty of time to discuss this as much as you want. But I will continue going through brief, and if you want more information, we have plenty of time to do it. Just kind of going over things. The total project budget for this right now is looking at being about $163.4 million. And I'm going to go through just the rip off the Band-Aid first and hit the budget, because that's usually what scares everybody. And then we'll hopefully move into some better information later. So, but anyways, the total budget for the project right now is looking at $163.4 million. Of that, the state of Wyoming, and that's the total project. Of that, the state of Wyoming has currently contributed about 27.2% of the project, which is $41.81 million for construction and $2.35 million related to pre-construction. However, this project is primarily, slightly, covered costs by Nebraska, because the water for both Wyoming irrigators and Nebraska irrigators runs through these tunnels. The split is actually 49% on the Wyoming irrigators and 51% on the Nebraska irrigators. So Wyoming's share right now of the Wyoming irrigators portion is about 55.5% of that budget. Right now, funding in place, the district has about $125.3 million between state of Wyoming funds, some ARPA funds provided through the state of Nebraska, a emergency equip extraordinary maintenance loan, EXM, from the Bureau of Reclamation. And they are continuing to look, rough math would say they're about 40 million short of completing this entire project. However, it appears they're looking for another 102 million in XM loans. I guess to ensure that if anything comes up, they've got plenty of funds to cover this. So right now, and also one thing I should say is recently, the Bureau of Reclamation has redeclared this project as an emergency project. By redeclaring it as an emergency project, that gets them 35% forgiveness on the loan money. So basically, if they take $1 of loan, they have to pay back 65 cents. They get 35%. Unfortunately, they do not get to take the forgiveness first and then loan later. It's you take it all and you only pay back your 65% portion. So right now, for the Wyoming irrigators, the overall share between grant and principal forgiveness works out to about 71% of the cost of the project, which means 29% of the cost of this very large project is falling on the sponsors. Like I said, 29% for most of our projects seems pretty reasonable. And however, the size of this project, 29% is still a significant amount of money. So that's kind of the ripping off the Band-Aid part of, that's where the funding is. However, the project is moving. On the better side, the project overall design is at 90% moving forward. BOR has issued a NEPA FONSI, which is finding of no significant impact for this project. So we are moving forward on that. The BLM, who owns some of this property out there, has approved a right-of-way on the project. All private landowner easements are in place at this time. The Office of State Lands and Investment, temporary use and permits are secured. The only permitting we're looking at this point, according to my notes, is some county road permits for running oversized equipment on the county roads for a period of time. So from easements, land acquisition standpoint, we're looking very good. And this is a construction manager at risk project. So we have both the engineer and a contractor working together to move this project forward. They have issued a limited notice to proceed to start constructing the tunneling machine, the open face excavation machine, and a limited notice to proceed for the precast liner that will be put in. So basically, as the tunneling machine goes through, it puts in sections of liner behind it as it moves forward. So both of those are currently in design. Once everything's approved and designed, the full notice to proceed will come forward to actually start building those components. Mountain View Builders, who is a Wyoming contractor, started construction on the outlet of Tunnel 2 last week. So we're looking good there. So essentially right now we're just getting some access roads and stuff built in, but we are actually moving forward with construction on this project. So the current plan is that Tunnel 2's inlet and outlets will be constructed this off-season. Water will flow through the tunnels next irrigation season. 26-27 off-season, the inlet and outlets of Tunnel 1 will be rebuilt and Tunnel 2 will be bored and rebuilt. And then in the winter of, mixed up here, the winter of 27 and spring of 28, the Tunnel 1 would be bored. So we're finally making progress on this project. And I'd say we've been making a lot of progress, but as a construction guy, until dirt's moved, I don't consider it progress. So we're moving dirt, so progress is being made. I believe the sponsor and engineer on the back, if you have more detailed questions than that, but I said, initially, this was intended to just be a quick update on this project, but we have time.
Anyone have any questions for Bill? Thanks for that, Bill.
Okay. So I'll go ahead and move on to the Laprelle Dam. So we have received an updated draft EA, or an updated draft EA and environmental assessment was provided to the BOR in September. We are currently anticipating a finding of no significant impacts in early to mid-December. Things are moving along fairly well there. Design is moving right along. We have an interim design milestone. GMP development was worked on in October. We are expecting early works package design to be available November 26th. Then we will move on to a 90% design review package in February of 26. And by June of 26, having a 100% design review package completed. One thing I would compliment is the state engineer's office has been being great on this project. Typically for dams, we 100% design that dam, get it completely finished, and then the SEO's office looks at it. They have been willing in this case to look at things progressively, kind of similar to the way the office reviews them. So when the foundation excavation design is reviewed and complete, they will review that on its own. And if they determine that excavation plan is complete, the contractor can start doing the excavation work and moving forward, even knowing the full dam isn't designed yet. So they're working very well with us and the engineers and the contractors on this. This is again a construction manager at risk project. The construction manager has been hired. It's a brain slip. Yeah, so Big Sky Civil and yeah, no, it's not. Big Sky Civil and Montana Civil are the contractors. They are the same contractors that are currently building the Levitt Reservoir. We have a lot of experience with them. Speaking back to the last project with Mountain View Builders, Mountain View Builders is also involved in the Levitt project. So these contractors we're working with, we're very familiar with and have good reputation with. So moving forward, at this point in time, we're looking at December 19th of 25. Contracting with, moving forward with construction with a notice to proceed. Actual construction of the dam work, which would be that foundation excavation starting, would be March 1st of 26 would be when the work starts to do the actual excavation of the dam. However, after that notice to proceed in December and prior to March 1, as weather allows, access roads to the site would be being developed. Lay down areas for all the equipment would be being worked on. We also have a lot of valves, et cetera, that are going to be long lead times that allows them to bid those and have those start being manufactured and shipped in. Some of those devices take a year to show up. So we want to order them as early as we can. So when we're ready to install a valve, it's here. Also, this project is going to require a huge amount of aggregate. Essentially, there's nothing on site that we can use to build the dam with. There's small areas of material that's good for some things. Generally, that material will be used in the some of the roadways and stuff like that, but generally, all the material for the dam will be imported. So that's going to be a long lead time to make all of that aggregate. So that'll start after this December 1 deadline or notice to proceed. So right now we are looking at foundation excavation and prepping the site taking place at 26. The roller compacted concrete, the main portion of the dam being built in 2027. Spring of 28 having a partial fill of the reservoir as final work is being done on the dam. So we are looking at possibly having some irrigation water flowing in 28 and then substantial completion of the dam completed in 29. So project is moving along very rapidly. And again, I'm not sure if we have a sponsor, but I think we do have the engineer in the back of the room if there's any technical questions.
Any questions? Thank you, Bill. Your presentation must have been pretty thorough, with no questions being asked.
Everybody's ready for lunch. So, thank
Everybody's
you.
hungry. Moving on, I think we're at discussion. Is that
And
correct?
Mr. Chairman, I have no items for discussion today unless you do.
Anyone have any items for discussion? None? Future meeting? Clinton?
One more. So anyway, I've been on this board for almost 10 years now. I'm down to the end. It's been a real pleasure, and an honor to serve with all of you on here. I've learned a great amount of knowledge and information just serving on this board. I don't plan on going too far. I'm still gonna be putting in proposals and projects through our tribes. But I just want to thank everybody. It's been a real pleasure. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Clint. So with that, Clinton, I have a question for you. Have you found a replacement?
No.
I was afraid you'd say that. Thank you. Any other questions or discussion? Future meeting schedule.
Go ahead, Barry.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Barry Lawrence, Deputy Director for Planning, Water Development. For your consideration is, oh, we are on the last page of your e-notebook, so it makes it easy, very last page. For your consideration is the 2026 meeting schedule. I'm going to walk through these. These are proposed meeting dates, and we have a couple of issues that we need to work through together. And the first of which is the next meeting, and I'll tell you what's going on there. You'll see typically in budget years, we have January meetings, not December meetings, where the commission meets one day and then Select Water would meet the next subsequent day. However, if we look at January calendar, we've been made aware that the JAC meets the week of January 5th through the 9th and the 12th through the 16th, so the first 2 full weeks in January. And we're also aware that we have 3 Select Water members that are on JAC. So if we're going to try to avoid that issue, we'd have to either look at right after that period of time or we'd have to look at a December meeting. If we were to look at January, January 19th is Martin Luther King Day. So the first days that we could theoretically have the meetings would be the January 20th and 21st would be the actual first days. And then becomes the issue of, was that too close to session? We can have that discussion. That is 2.5 weeks before session. Session starts February 9th. Okay, so that would be one option. The other option would be we could look at potentially squeezing in a December meeting. The dates that also said would be theoretically available would be December 15th through the 18th potentially for a meeting. One of the issues there is the prior week, we are having hearings on all of our projects, level 3 projects that we have not had hearings on. We have to go out in the state and do those hearings per statute. We'll be doing that and then reporting back. And so that'll be tight, but it's still doable. The other issue is obviously today we've heard that there've been a few projects that you've basically tabled, or as somebody said, kicked down the road a little bit for a January meeting. So we'd be talking a December meeting instead of a January meeting. So those are the 2 options. And I don't know if the director wants to add anything else.
Mr. Chairman, the only thing I would add is it tends to be if we get our omnibus bills into the LSO, I guess, later, then they get put later in the queue to go in front of committee and get introduced and all that stuff. And it tends to then push up against deadlines as we go through the legislative session, and everybody gets worried that, you know, we haven't had a discussion about the omnibus bill and we've only got 2 days left and various things like that. So going into later in January, that would be my only concern.
Senator Bonner.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I think that that's something that could be easily managed. I don't always put it in order of the bill number, you know, that's up to our leadership, and it should be a pretty simple conversation, I would think. Make sure that, you know, they don't just, you know, put it at the bottom of the list behind even personal bills because it may be behind a few. So I think that shouldn't be a concern. We can, you know, maybe there's a chairman in the House that maybe needs a talking to, but other than that, I think, you know, I think that could be easily managed, and especially with the kind of some of the things we deferred on today, I'm thinking maybe that mid-January timeframe may be best, but you know, we got quite a few people on appropriations that are going to be very busy in January. Maybe they want to weigh in too. I don't know.
Mr. Chairman, I'm good with whatever dates you do, and I agree fully with Senator Bonner is, we can prioritize that. It'll be one of the first bills ahead of committee bills if it needs to be. Both bodies have always given great deference to omnibus water bill, both construction and planning. They get priority over even our committee bills generally if they want to be.
So, Mr. Chairman, I mean, what I'm hearing, we would be potentially looking at January 20th for a commission meeting and January 21st for select water. Okay, I'll continue to walk through and we can think some more about that and have any more discussion we need to have. Okay, if we walk down through this, the next meeting would be March. You'll see that we've got TBD for the Select Water Committee meeting. Typically, the chair of the Select Water Committee sets that meeting during session based on happenings during session and so forth. And a lot of times they're able to do that before everybody goes home from session. And session ends March 6th. So that's why it's TBD, and that's typically what we do there for Select Water. The commission, however, typically meets about 10 days after the session. A couple of reasons for that. One, to let the dust settle on these things, and then also waiting for the bills to become signed and into law by the governor so that we don't have to make everything contingent. So we typically, the dates that we've got listed here, March 17th and 18th, basically it's the same offset as last year, 10 days after session, okay? Moving on, May, that is a joint meeting with Commission Select Water. The big thing at that meeting is we're listening to all the new project sponsors that are coming in wanting planning studies. If you remember that, we're asking for preliminary approval at that time, those planning studies based on the recommendations of the director as to whether to begin consultant selection or not on those studies. And so that's their May meeting, our joint meeting. Also SRF IUP is taken up at that time, but we're mainly reviewing those level 1, 2 applications for approval. Then moving on into August, that is a joint workshop meeting and tour. And the tour location to be determined, we'll be talking about that. But we are looking at August 4th through 6th. Here again, that's about a one-day offset from last year, what we did. And just so everybody knows, that is the week before State Fair. I know that's always a concern. And then this year, primaries. You may want to know when the primaries are, and that's August 18th. And so it's 2 weeks before primaries, and it's the week before the State Fair. So we should be okay there with that date. September meeting, that is commission only. That's consultant selection. Here again, that's a one-day offset from last year. We're looking at September 21st to 23rd, depending on how many applications we have and how many projects we're selecting for consultant selection. And then September 24th is the actual commission meeting. Then moving into November, and this is where we need some assistance and some of your input again. Right now, just so everybody knows, the general election is Tuesday, November 3rd, okay? And Veterans Day is Wednesday, November 11th. So what we are proposing is to wedge in after elections, but before Veterans Day, if possible, wedge in that meeting from the 4th through the 6th. The 4th, we would probably workshop, would probably be the afternoon. So we'd be starting the day after the elections in the afternoon as a workshop, if that's amenable to everybody. The other option is sliding it to the next week. The only problem with the next week is you do get into Veterans Day, which is a Wednesday. And the problem with that is two things. One, facilities become a real problem. And the other thing is anybody that's required, any state employee required to be at the meeting gets time and a half. So it starts to add up additional costs to the state to have the meeting on Veterans Day. So if we can avoid that, and it's right in smack dab in the middle of the week. So if the 4th through 6th would work, that would be our recommendation. And that would, I would defer to the bodies relative to the elections, if that would be doable the day after, say in the afternoon, to start the workshop. Do you want to say anything? And then lastly, I can cover December real quick. And this is here again, a one-day offset, no real change here from what we typically do in the non-budget years. December 15th through 16th of the commission workshop meeting, and then the 17th would be Select Water Committee. Of course, these are subject to change, but this would be the tentative schedule as laid out now.
Thank you, Barry. Anyone have any questions or comments on the proposed meeting schedule? So I do have a question of, at this time, are you anticipating a December meeting? December 2025 meeting?
Mr. Chairman, yes, generally in a general session, which would be not this session, but next year's session, it starts a little earlier. So we'd have to have a December meeting instead of a January meeting. Oh, this year?
This year, yes.
No, I think we landed on January 20th and 21st.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I misunderstood.
Because there was a little discussion earlier about that, and I missed Barry's first comments about the December meeting. Are there any other questions and comments, concerns? Anyone like to raise? Not, I'd like a motion to adjourn. Motion by Commissioner Glick, do I have a second? Second by Commissioner Choma, any discussion? Motion's adjourned. Meeting's adjourned, I'm sorry. Should call for a vote, but we're adjourned anyway.
Yeah, it's too late now.
Select Water meeting tomorrow morning at 8:30.
What was that?
8:30 tomorrow morning.
That's right.
Okay.
See you guys there.